Yan Beiqing held the waist of Mo Shanghua tightly and said, "Don't the princess like to get along with her second brother very much? Do you want to meet your wish? By the way, and Lu Zheng, do you want to bring them to you? As soon as I think of Mo Shanghua's avoiding him these days, even if I see him occasionally, I don't pay attention to him. It's also cold words. But I've been alone with Yan Moli for such a long time, and I often say soft words to Lu Zheng. His heart is burning with bitterness and resentment." But Yan Beiqing didn't know that his words were just like pointing to their noses and calling them sluts for any woman. In particular, such words came from his husband's mouth. This word swam quickly in the heart of Mo Shanghua. Her delicate and cool cheek was covered with frost, and her voice was also cold. "Well, if the Lord likes it, you can bring all the men in the palace, and I can accept them one by one." Although she was sometimes a little dull and didn't want to talk to others, she was covered with sharp thorns. Whoever provoked her, he decided not to swallow his anger. Even if he hurt himself 800, he would hurt the enemy 1,000. When Yan Beiqing heard the speech, his whole face was completely gloomy. It was as gloomy as the dark clouds when the wind and rain were about to come, and the fierce air in his eyes leaped forward. "Flowers on the street!" Yan Beiqing couldn't help but roar. He grabbed the slender and fragile neck of Mo Shanghua and said, "What do you want me to do?" Because he was too emotional, he even abandoned his usual disguise. Now he has no place to vent his anger. But even so, he did not forget to restrain the action in his hands, did not dare to really force, just afraid to hurt the flowers on the street. If he was an ordinary woman, he would have been pale and flustered. But the stranger didn't even move his brow. He said coldly, "This is what you are, cloakman." The last two words, she is almost word by word, eyes in addition to full of frost, vaguely mixed with a bit stubborn. Yen North City can't help but a zheng. The Mao color is clear to extinguish, don't know exactly what is thinking. After all, it's one thing for Hua Qianlu to talk to him, and another thing for him to hear. After a long time, he lowered his head again and spat out a few words from his thin lip. "Now that you know, are you not afraid at all?" Say, holding the hand of the flower neck on the road slightly tightens a moment. "You can't kill me." Mo Shanghua's face was still the same. At the same time, he took out the dagger he was carrying with him, and one of them was on Yan Beiqing's neck. The dagger was across his neck, bringing a cold touch. However, Yan Beiqing's face changed little by little, and his eyes disappeared again. He couldn't understand what he was thinking. But the flower on the street seems to be cold and merciless at this time. But the bottom of her eyes is the same, complex and difficult to distinguish, unable to see what she is thinking. For a long time, Yan Beiqing's face suddenly relaxed, and his hand holding the neck of the flower on the street also relaxed. It seemed that he was helpless, and he began to speak in a low voice like self-mockery. "After all, it's the king who has been amorous." This time, the stranger was stunned. His brain was like an empty echo. He kept playing this passage in a circle. His heart, which had been thought to have erected a barrier, seemed to be broken, and there were bursts of pain. Before he had time to respond, he saw that Yan Beiqing had already reached out to brush the dagger that was lying across his neck. Because he didn't pay much attention to it, the sharp blade made a light scratch on his neck. Mo Shanghua catches a glimpse of the scratch on his neck. He jumps for a moment in his heart. Subconsciously, he sits up and wants to have a look. But his consciousness finally catches up and stops her action. He grasps the bed sheet under him between his fingers. Yan Beiqing seemed to have no sense of the blood stains on his neck. He didn't even frown. He just raised his hand to lightly erase the blood stains and said, "The princess must have not been raised well. Later, I will let Dr. Lu come back to have a look. You can take good care of her these days. I have nothing to do and won't disturb your peace." Then he turned and strode away. Mo Shanghua stares at his back in a dazed way. It's clear that she's so tall and straight. Somehow, Mo Shanghua sees that she's a little lost. Or maybe she's lost herself. The house was completely quiet. Mo Shanghua sat on the bed for a long time. She could only hear the patter of rain outside the window. But she felt that her ears were buzzing and her heart was in a mess. No matter what, she could not calm down. Later, this night she was tossing and turning, until dawn, cannot rest. When Qinya came to wait on Emo Shanghua to do her makeup, she was shocked to see that her eyes were black. Princess, why are you so heavy now? Was the thunderstorm last night so noisy that you didn't sleep well? After Qinya said so, Emo Shanghua just looked up at himself in the bronze mirror. She is proficient in medical theory, so her body has always been well conditioned. Her face is ruddy and clear all the year round. Except when she was ill, when did she become so haggard? She looks 10 times worse than when she is working on medicinal materials. Seeing that she didn't speak and seemed to have gone away, Qinya could not help but called softly, "Princess?" The flowers on the street suddenly came back and said in a soft voice, "Yesterday's rain was a little big." Qinya nodded approvingly. She combed the long silky black hair of the flowers on the street and said, "It's not true. The maidservant just went to bed after a long time yesterday. In the past, the maidservant never went to bed because of this." Although she was talking about her troubles, her heart was still more happy. The corners of her lips could not help raising. But after laughing for a moment, she was distressed again. "It's a pity that my brother has not recovered. I'll feel his pulse later. You don't have to worry too much," he said softly. Qinya reluctantly smiles, lowers her head and doesn't speak anymore. She skillfully twists the long soft hair of Emo Shanghua into a bun and decorates it with a few zhu chai. Then she combs it in a simple but decent bun. Emo Shanghua raised her hand and cut a few strands of broken hair in front of her forehead. As she was about to get up, she heard the door knocked, and then there was no sound. It's not Qinlin who can knock like this. "Come in." Emo Shanghua knew that Qinlin was inconvenient to speak, so she opened her mouth thoughtfully and asked him to come in and reply. After a while, Qinlin pushed the door and came in. After the ceremony, he reported in sign language that Lu Zheng was coming. He said that he wanted to ask for a safe pulse. The king ordered him to send it. Emo Shanghua wanted to refuse, but she thought of the helpless appearance of Yan Beiqing when she left yesterday. When she came to her mouth, she swallowed it and said, "Please come in." Qinlin nodded and bowed back. After a while, Lu Zheng came in with a medicine box on his back. "Princess." Lu Zheng leaned over slightly and made a salute with his hands. "No need to be polite." Emo Shanghua turns around and raises her hand to show her exemption. Lu Zheng gets up, opens the medicine box and takes out the wrist pillow and silk handkerchief one by one. Although Emo Shanghua already knows about her physical condition, she still cooperates with her and puts her how wrist on it, letting Lu Zheng feel her pulse. A moment later, Lu Zheng just closed his wrist pillow and said, "The princess's pulse is much more stable. She should have been better, but her heart is depressed. If it goes on like this, I'm afraid it's not right." "I know, but it's always rainy these days, the weather is sultry, even if I'm in a good mood." But Lu Zheng saw through what she thought in her heart and said, "According to the view of Wei Chun in recent days, the princess's self-injury is better in those days. Especially in these days, her mood seems to be getting worse and worse." Emo Shanghua raised her eyes and tried to suppress her depression. Dr. Lu is not only skillful in medicine, but also very good in appearance. The princess is joking. "I'm sorry." Lu Zheng thought about it. Seeing that Qinya was the only one in the house, he changed his name and wanted to enlighten him as a friend. "Although you look as usual, are there few rumors these days? How can I not know?" After a pause he said, "Besides, sometimes your eyes don't lie." Of course, sometimes after all, it's hard to understand in the past, but in a few days, the mood will always leak out occasionally. Qinya is a little girl in the end. She can't see that she is normal. But Lu Zheng is young, but because of her identity as a doctor, she has read countless people. Naturally, she can see it clearly. He had never seen such a flower in the street. How could he not worry? The flowers in the street can't help but turn their eyes to see themselves in the bronze mirror. Although the people in the mirror are beautiful, their faces are haggard. Although the eyes are as calm as usual, there are some dark colors under the calm, which makes the whole person lose a lot of color. Looking at her haggard appearance, Lu Zheng could not help sighing. "What you look like now is always unfavorable to your condition. I don't need to tell you this. You must know it very well. If you have any unhappiness, there's no one else here. It's better to say it. Only in this way can you relieve it. The flowers on the street are silent for a moment, and the lips can't help pursing slightly, as if hesitating whether to say it or not. However, after a while, she still shook her head. If I want to, I will not be depressed. Lu Zheng saw this, thought about it, and lowered his voice more gently. If you don't want to say it, you might as well go out and walk more. Now it's sunny, and crepe myrtle has gradually opened. After a pause he said, I know that the order of banning feet is just a vain one for you. Emo Shanghua then realized what was common. She looked out through the half-open screen window, and saw that the sunshine was just right outside. She couldn't help but move in her heart, but she didn't decide immediately. Seeing this, Lu Zheng puts his eyes on Qinya. Qinya Dun came over, and he was very busy. He took Emo Shanghua's arm and said, Princess, why don't you just go out and have a look? You can't feel suffocated sitting all day, but I'm going to suffocate. Emo Shanghua also has some thoughts. Now he is suffering from the headache of being shaken by Qinya. After thinking about it, he simply nods his head. Lu Zheng sees this. In the heart has been high-hanging big stone, this just fell down. The worry in the eye disperses a few minutes, so good. In this way, not only he but also that one should be relieved. Qinya is also immediately happy to smile by pull the arm of the flower, then happily began to plan where to go in the end to relax. The more he said, the more excited he was. He was supposed to go in the afternoon, but Qinya said that no one came to them now, encouraging Emo Shanghua to go early after dinner. They specially changed men's clothes for convenience, and chose the most prosperous street in Yuzhou. Yuzhou streets are much narrower than the imperial city, and there are not many hawkers and pedestrians. It is not as prosperous as half of the imperial city, but it has a unique style. Once upon a time, Emo Shanghua had never seen it well. Now with Qinya at her side, she would take her here and there for a while. Then she noticed that the style of Yuzhou was very different from that of the imperial city. Many of the things here are unique to Yuzhou, even the imperial city, which is a place where people from several countries trade frequently, and these things are also rare. Encouraged by Qinya, Emo Shanghua bought a lot of rare things and some jewelry hairpins, but he didn't let Emo Shanghua use them at home. He was happy to carry all his bags. They went to the best restaurant in Yuzhou for dinner, and then they strolled in the afternoon. After such a pleasant day, it gradually darkened. Qinya looked at the peddlers who had begun to clean up the stalls around, and fewer pedestrians. She said helplessly, Princess, it's time for us to go back. It's not easy to come out this time. How can she have enough fun? She just wants to stay outside for a while. When she heard the words from the flowers on the street, her eyes were full of nostalgia. She was in a better mood because she was not easy. When she thought of the people in the palace and the bad things, she felt a little tired. At this time, she has been working hard. She even has no time to rest. How can she think of going back to face it so soon? She really feels a little tired. This word, she has not felt too fast for many years. Now it is not easy to give her a chance. Let her indulge for a while. Thinking about this, she turned her eyes around the street, and saw that all the people on the street had dispersed one after another with the coming of dusk. After all, there was no royal city, but there was no night market. However, if she really wants to find a place to sing every night, she really knows something about it. Qinya, it's not long since your ears have recovered. Compared with the music you haven't heard before, has it? Emo Shanghua turns his head to look at Qinya, and opens his mouth seriously. Qinya nodded very honestly. The slave girl is not from a good family background. She was dependent on her brother since childhood. Later she worked in a rich family. Because of her ears she never heard of it. Said her eyes cannot help but show a bit of regret and yearning color. Seeing this, the flower on the street simply took a step forward. As she walked towards the road ahead, she said, I'll take you to see. Qinya looked at Emo Shanghua's free and easy figure. She couldn't help but be stunned. It seemed that she couldn't react. After a long time, she caught up with her and said, Princess, is that true? At the moment, when she listened to the music of the orchestra, she immediately put the matter of going back to the government behind her, completely ignoring it. However, When Emo Shanghua takes Qinya to Qinghuan Pavilion, both of them are stunned and seem to be surprised by the scene in front of them. I saw that Qinghuan Pavilion, which used to be brightly lit all night and sing songs all night, was destroyed for some reason. Even the bronzing characters of Qinghuan Pavilion on the plaque were blackened by thick smoke, and there was no glorious image in the past. The gate of Qinghuan Pavilion is also closed, and a small wooden sign is hung at the gate, which simply reads "Pause and Rest." "Princess, isn't this the place of fireworks?" After a long time, Qinya slowly recovered and said, "It's still a dilapidated brothel." Emo Shanghua didn't answer Qinya's words, only she curving willow-like eyebrows, and her eyes were a little surprised. Then she quickly stepped forward, raised her hand and tapped on the closed gilded and carved wooden door. No response. Emo Shanghua thought, or raised his hand to tap again. This time, after waiting for a long time, I heard the sound of footsteps in the house. It was not long before the door was opened from inside. Who's knocking on the door again? I don't know. I'll be here for a while in the near future. The young steward subconsciously said what she had done before, but before she finished a word, the face of the flower on the street was visible, and her unfinished words were cut off like a knife. "Mogu, young master, why are you here?" "I wanted to have a drink, but I just got here and saw this scene." Emo Shanghua politely nodded to the woman, and then said, "How did you become this appearance here?" "It's not convenient for me to talk to the girl in detail here. I also invite the girl to come in and talk." The woman is very polite to Emo Shanghua and opens the door to make way. Emo Shanghua sees this and doesn't refuse. She turns her eyes and looks at Qinya. She just walks in. Seeing this, Qinya quickly follows in. The woman closed the door again, dropped the lock, and then led the flowers to the elegant room on the 3rd floor. She ordered people to bring tea and snacks. Just now she said, "I'll invite you to come here. Please wait here." Wait a minute. Seeing that the woman was considerate everywhere, and obviously avoided others, she was different from her alone. She could not help asking, "Are these all ordered by your son?" If not, she can't imagine why a director of Qinghuan Pavilion, who is so powerful, takes care of herself so politely. That woman slightly smiled, the whole body bearing more elegant chic up. "Yes, the child once ordered, if you come in the future, no matter when, must be to serve as guest of honor, and immediately invite him to come." "Thank you very much." The flowers on the street nodded their thanks, but they were surprised. When did her friendship with Hua Qianlu come to such a stage? When the woman saw that she had no problem, she bowed her head gracefully and stepped back. After a few steps she got up and left again. Seeing that there was no one else in the house, Qinya couldn't help looking around curiously and said to herself, "I didn't expect that the outside of the building had been burned like that. The inside of the house was totally different." Sure enough, the thin camel was bigger than the horse. After a pause, she fixed her eyes on Emo Shanghua again and said, "Listen to what the elder sister just said. Is that the princess has some old friendship with their child, so we get this treatment?" Emo Shanghua nodded, thought about it, and said, "The child she said is the child you saw before in Wujuan. It's the playboy." After Emo Shanghua mentioned this, Qinya just vaguely thought of it, and could not help praising it. "Young Master Hua is really nice. He used to help you like that. Now when he is not here, he will let others take care of you. It's not like the little guy around the Lord. He is used to bullying you." A word just fell, then listen to the man's deep laughter outside the door, and then see flowers and willows shaking splash ink painting folding fan. Languid pace came in. "The girl really has a good eye, but I don't like it very much." With a habitual smile on his lips, he felt friendly and close to others. Although all the girls here are beautiful and versatile, none of them is better than those in Beicheng. When Qinya heard the reply from such a romantic person, her white cheeks suddenly turned red, and she simply bit her lips and did not dare to speak. On the contrary, she just took the teapot on the table and poured a cup of tea. Seeing him coming in, she conveniently placed the teapot on the empty seat opposite her. "Your mind is really good. The huge Qinghuan Pavilion has been burned like this, and you can still laugh. Have fun in time. The willows of flowers are smiling and singing." They pick up the teacup pushed by the flowers on the street and smell it on their lips. They can't help but praise. The tea made by the flowers on the street is really sweet. Say, very enjoy of squint and I shallow drink. Mo Shanghua is used to the appearance of Hua Qianlu, but he doesn't say much. He just lowers his head and pours a cup of tea for himself. He takes a sip of it and says, I remember that Yu Qinghuan Pavilion was busy a few days ago. What did you experience these days? How did you become this appearance? Yan Beiqing shrugged his shoulders and looked like he didn't care much. What else can there be? It's just that the people I usually offend come to me and hurt me. But the loss is not small. This is a perfunctory remark, but if you listen carefully, there is some truth. Otherwise, you can't be set on fire without any reason. Seeing him, he didn't want to say it. After thinking about it, Mo Shanghua didn't ask any questions. He said, then you should find out this person well and ask him for all the money you lost these days. Otherwise, how can you get back the money? It's natural. At this point, Flower Willow lips smile slightly convergence, eyes slightly narrowed, eyes inside the hair, is a stranger flower never seen dangerous color. Seeing the flowers on the street, I can't help sighing. The flower willow is always harmless to human beings and animals, but it is the well-known lord of Qinghuan Pavilion. How can he be as good as his heart? However, you haven't been here for a while. You're not the only one who doesn't come, but also the North City. I'm really lonely and cold. See, the flowers on the street do not speak. Flower willows do not feel that the opening of a smile. The flower on the street seems to think of something. There is a dark color in her eyes. There are many things in the house recently, and I can't move the time. Flower Thousand Willow is a meaningful smile, meaning unknown mouth. I've forgotten you this palace recently but came to a big Buddha. Can't serve is also a matter of reason. After a pause, he quickly closed the folding fan and habitually touched his forehead with the fan. Oh, I forgot. Brother Beiqing didn't always come to drink with me like you. To drink with you? Mo Shanghua asked subconsciously, and her eyes didn't understand. As far as she knows, it seems that there is no news in the house that Yan Beiqing has come to drink flower wine again. Is it possible that he came quietly? Hua Qianlu nodded, not knowing whether it was intentional or unintentional. You don't know, the North City drank a lot yesterday. I almost let him drink out of the wine cellar. I still had a rest here that night. The radiance of the flower's lips on the street was gradually smoothed out. After a long silence he said, why did he drink so much wine with you? I don't know exactly. Hua Qianlu put the folding fan in his palm and tapped it rhythmically. But I don't know what I should do with you or what I'm wrong with. I don't understand it very well. The full and ruddy lips of the flowers on the street are slightly pursed, the palm is slightly tightened, and the fingers touch the palm lightly. For a long time, she took a little breath and looked up at the flowers. If I want to say something, I might as well say it directly. After a pause, she looked at Qinya behind her. Qinya, you go out first. Seeing this, Hua Qianlu chuckles and gently points her side with a fan. The woman who has just been entertaining flowers in a stranger says, go and take Miss Qinya to the next room. As for the following words, needless to say, if the woman takes Qinya, she will surely treat her with tea and snacks. In short, she won't be ungrateful. Yes. The woman took the life, did not dislike the identity of Qinya's maid, still treated as before, led Qinya down. When the house was quiet, Hua Qianlu was not in a hurry to say it. Instead, he poured a cup of tea and drank it. Feng leisurely said, I have never done anything like a peacemaker, but today, I have to do it last time. Seems to see the Mo Shanghua is also so stuffy temperament. Without waiting for her to open her mouth, Hua Qianlu said to herself, you spent a few days ago in order to cure the imperial city, and hurt your body. You only know that you are sad, and you know what the North City is doing that day. The flower eyebrows on the street frowned slightly, and an idea came out of his heart. That day, of course, it couldn't be so simple. The one in the imperial city played a big game of chess and put me and Brother Beiqing together. That day, Brother Beiqing seemed to be at the South Crane, but in fact he was going to solve the trouble left by the boy. His whereabouts were uncertain, and others could not contact him easily. The flower on the street was slightly stunned for a moment, and her eyes involuntarily crossed a bit of complicated color. She pursed her lips and didn't speak. Hua Qianlu saw this, and his look in his eyes was a little deeper. It seemed that his mood had changed, but it didn't take a moment to recover as usual. As for what happened after that, I think you should change someone to understand. After all, I'm not on the spot. What I know is limited. Yes, I know. The flowers on the street gathered their eyes, and the eyes covered by the long eyelashes were very complicated. After sitting down for a while, she raised her eyes and said, "What's the relationship between Nanhai and him?" This problem has been pressing in her heart for a long time. Now that Hua Qianliu's words have been mentioned in this way, she will not be restrained, so as not to miss today. On her day, she will become the same person in the past, so that this matter cannot be explained, which makes her feel strange. When Hua Qianlu heard the words, he burst out with a smile, and his face was full of narrow color. It's a pity that Xiao Mo Hua is jealous of brother Beicheng. It's so lovely that he can't hear it with his own ears. She said so. The original dull atmosphere was eased a little. The heart of Mo Shanghua was not as heavy as just now, but it didn't get better immediately, just waiting for the answer of Hua Qianlu quietly, and touching the fingertips of palm didn't release half a minute. I can't tell you that. Seeing the appearance of Mo Shanghua's expectation, Hua Qianlu deliberately sold the lawsuit. If you want to know, you can point to brother Beicheng's nose and question him. He is so afraid that he will tell you clearly. Say oneself also can't help laughing, but still want to carry elegant posture, shake folding fan. The flowers on the street can't smile at all. After Hua Qianlu said so, her heart is more chaotic than before, and the questions in her heart keep popping up one by one. I shouldn't go back too late, otherwise it will cause a lot of trouble and I won't stay long, so I'll go back. I can't help but feel anxious. Mo Shanghua can't help but stand up and get ready to go back to the mansion. Hua Qianliu's smile didn't decrease, and he didn't leave more flowers in his street. He just raised his voice and called, "Come on, take Miss Qinya," and she said her master is going back. You can guess what is the mood of Mo Shanghua now. If he stops him, I'm afraid I don't need Mo Shanghua. Only Yan Beicheng will be able to split him. Soon after Hua Qianliu's words, someone answered outside the door. Not long after that, Qinya came back with the maid. Mo Shanghua is now eager to return home, but he didn't tell Qinyadwa. He only told her that he wanted to go back earlier, so he took her back to his house. Hua Qianlu looks at the empty position on the opposite side, and the half cup of tea left by the flower in the street. The smile on her lips gradually fades down, and the mood just flashed up at this time. He volunteered to be the peacemaker. How could he be a little unhappy now? It seemed that he had personally sent the woman to another man. Thinking of this, his eyes suddenly became gloomy and dark. Aware of this, he quickly cut off his thoughts, and no longer wanted to think deeply. It's a lot of things. It's really a lot of things. At the corner of his lips, he lifted a seemingly specious smile, took up the tea and drank it as if it was not tea but good liquor. When they came back to the palace, it was almost the end of the day. Many places in the palace had been locked. However, Mo Shanghua seemed to forget it. He told Qinlin, "Qinlin, go to see Dr. Liu." Then he said, "I'm not feeling well. Ask him to come as soon as possible." Qinlin was stunned and turned his eyes to Qinya. Seeing this, Qinya was also in a bit of a dilemma. She couldn't help reminding her, "Princess, it's time now. You can't leave any foreign men in the mansion. Imperial Dr. Liu has already returned to the mansion." Mo Shanghua almost blurts out, and asks Qinlin to take her token to go out and ask Lu Yui. Feng wants to get out of her throat, and she swallows it again. She just after knowing reaction come over. Busy will be in the heart of the state of mind again. I'm just impatient. You all go back. I think I need a good rest. Although she was pressed down for a while, she was still a little irritable in her heart. Qin Yaben wanted to retreat, but Qinlin didn't mean to. He took out a piece of paper from his sleeve, presented it to him, and said in sign language, "Princess, the letter you gave me yesterday has passed quietly. This is the reply I received this morning." This matter is extraordinary. Mo Shanghua also did not refuse the letter received. I know you also go to have a rest. Qin Lin and Qin Ye retired according to their words. Mo Shanghua put up her agitation, opened the folded letter, and saw the same succinct writing of no action on it. The handwriting is vigorous and powerful, which shows that the writer has strong internal power. Mo Shanghua saw only feel that his injury now is a good recovery. In her mind now only she and Yan Beiqing have been calculated by this person. If she doesn't prepare a thank you gift for him, then I'm really sorry for him. The next day, Mo Shanghua asked Qin Lin to go to the gate of the mansion early to pay attention to the position. As soon as he saw Lu Zheng entering the mansion, he didn't even let him go to the medicine hall in the mansion. So he invited him directly to the courtyard. Until he saw the flowers on the street, Lu Zheng was still in an unknown state. The princess asked Qin Lin to wait for Wei Chun at the door of the mansion in the early morning. I don't know what's the emergency. After a pause, he seemed to think of something, and his face was tight. Is it because your injury is unstable and suddenly attacks? Mo Shanghua shook her head, pondered for a long time, and then said, I just want to know when the Lord came to see me when I was in a coma that day. Lu Zheng didn't know that Mo Shanghua had already known that Yan Beiqing was a cloaker, so he concealed it even though he didn't want to. The princess didn't see it too. The prince came here only after you were sober. How could you suddenly think of it? The flower on the street doesn't believe it. From Lu Zheng's eyes, she can see that what he said is not true. But that's not what she wants to know. Thinking of this, she was very serious and said, Dr. Lu, although we don't have any feelings, this matter is really important to me now. I have to have the cheek to ask you. Can you tell me the truth? Her black and white and clear eyes, staring at him like this, made his heart soften. Those words that had been used thousands of times in his heart could not be uttered. After pondering for a long time, his eyes twinkled slightly, and he simply changed the story of that day. Since you want to know, I will not hide it from you. In fact, that day, the Lord came to see you and kept you for a long time. For a moment, the flower on the street only felt that the string that had been pulled out for a long time and squeezed together with the others suddenly came back. The burden of the heart suddenly lightened a lot, and the melancholy spirit of the chest completely smoothed down. But in addition, her eyes are hard to cover across a complex color. On the one hand, he knew that he had misunderstood Yan Beiqing's guilt, and on the other hand, he knew that Yan Beiqing had been very kind to him. She couldn't tell what kind of emotion it was. She felt warm in her heart, but somehow she resisted it from her heart, as if it was like a virus, which made her want to expel it quickly. Princess, princess? Lu Zheng called the flower on the street, but she didn't respond. She could not help but reach out and shake it in front of her. Mo Shanghua, this just returned to God, quite apologetic, looked to Lu Zheng. Sorry, I just temporarily left God. No harm. Lu Zheng smiles slightly. His eyes are gentle, but his eyes are a bit complicated. The princess's mental state is not very good recently. It seems that she is more easily absorbed than before. You will never be like this before. After Lu Zheng said so, Mo Shanghua realized later that he was in general, his eyes were tiny, and he flashed a little. Maybe there are many things recently, and he didn't have a good rest. Lu Zheng's eyes were fixed on the flowers on the street, and he said, I once said that sometimes the eyes of a princess can't deceive people. It used to be because of Yanbei City, but now it is. The flower's eyes on the street were just about to say something, but he saw that Lu Zheng had already stood up and bowed slightly to salute. I'll go to ask Mrs. Xue for a pulse later and leave first. Said, then directly carried the medicine box to retreat. Mo Shanghua stares at Lu Zheng's leaving direction for a moment, and then just sits back. The look inside the eyes is complicated again. What is the meaning of Lu Zhenglin saying? Is it hard to remind her that she has changed her temper because of Yanbei City? But how could she do that because of Yan Beiqing? Is she's in love with him? It is inevitable that this idea appears in the flower heart of the stranger, but it is quite different from the girl's behavior. If the girl next to her is sure of her own thoughts, she is either extremely shy, or ecstatic, or stunned. At this time, her heart is inexplicably confused. In her previous life, although she had never been in touch with love, and had never seen any merry drama. She didn't understand this kind of emotion, but she clearly understood that if she liked someone, that person would be her weakness. If you don't strike, it's fatal. In this way, how could she not panic? After all, she still has a lot of risky things to do. How terrible it is to have such a weakness. So think, Mo Shanghua's headache incomparable, she is really don't know, now has moved the feeling of her, such as the face of such a weakness, and what to plan. Forget it. Yan Beiqing won't come to see her again these days. It's better to take advantage of this time, and do something else to avoid wasting time. Mo Shanghua's heart at the moment is broken. Then he thinks of Qin Lin, who took the medicine with Qinya at the same time, but has not improved so far. He says, Qinya, go and call your brother. Yes. Qinya nodded, then turned around and went out. After a while she brought Qin Lin in. Qin Lin, come here. The flower in the street saw that Qin Lin was standing in the same place, waiting for orders. She didn't bother to explain more and spoke directly. Qin Lin nodded, and then went to the flower in front of him. Mo Shanghua saw this and took the wrist pillow from one side, indicating that he would put his wrist on it. Qin Lin didn't want to, so he put his obedient hands on it. But when he saw that Mo Shanghua's hand was following him, and he wanted to put it on his wrist, he immediately withdrew his hand. This just reflects to come over to spend to want to do of Qin Lin, quickly start to keep waving hand to shake head to refuse, with whole body and express to refuse. Seeing Qin Lin's appearance, Qinya immediately came over and explained, Princess, my brother is afraid of polluting your hands. Mo Shanghua came over and simply straightened her face and looked at Qin Lin with solemn eyes. This is an order. You must follow it. Seeing this, Qinya quickly whispered, Brother, you can't listen to the order of the princess. You'd better accept it quickly. Qin Lin still hesitated, but seeing that the stranger's face was so grim, he could not resist, so he was very coy and released his hand. Mo Shanghua wanted to feel his pulse directly. Seeing that he was so coy at the moment, he took a handkerchief to cover his wrist, and then put up his plain hand. According to the pulse, we should not. For a moment my brow is tiny. I can't help but frown a little and whisper to myself. Qinya and Qin Lin's face in the audience is not clear. After a while Mo Shanghua took back her hand and said, Qin Lin, open your mouth, and then try to follow my movements to pronounce. Qin Lin nodded his head, then saw Mo Shanghua slowly open his mouth, and his mouth issued the syllable ah. Seeing this, Qin Lin opened his mouth slowly, and his throat gave out a hoarse and broken syllable similar to ah. Although he tried to learn how to make a sound, the word ah was just a figure, which was not accurate. Such a broken sound, which he would occasionally make, was not so surprising. Mo Shanghua patiently waited for Qin Lin to make this sound, and her mouth continued to close slowly, saying the word, I very slowly. Qin Lin also slowly closed her mouth with difficulty. She thought that she would utter words that could not be regarded as language just now, but she did not expect that she had tried many times in the guide of Mo Shanghua, and she succeeded in uttering a vague I in a hoarse voice. In the past, it was impossible. Qinya Dun's eyes were wide open, and he was surprised and happy. Big brother, you. Qin Lin himself was stunned. His face was at a loss. He couldn't react for a long time. Princess, what's the matter, brother? Is that okay? Qinya tried to restrain her excitement and turned to ask. She was surprised, but she couldn't hide the tension. She was afraid that it was just an accident. Under the close gaze of the two people, Mo Shanghua's delicate jaw gently said, From the pulse and the performance of Qin Lin just now, he can really speak, and this medicine should have worked a few days ago, not later than you. Qin Lin's whole body froze, but the eyes of such a strong man were gradually moist, and his face was full of excitement. Qin Lin was equally excited and ecstatic, as if she was the one who was cured. He grabbed Qin Lin's arm and said excitedly, Brother, you can speak. Will you laugh at me for this again? With that, tears ran down her white cheeks. Qin Lin busily wiped away the tears on her cheek with the palm of her hand. He opened his mouth to comfort her with words. After a long time, he just vomited a vague word I. Seeing this, Qinya couldn't help but wonder. She quickly held back her tears and looked at the flowers on the street, sobbing. Princess, what's the matter? Don't you say that my brother is ready to speak? Why is that still the case today? As she spoke, her white and tender hands could not help holding Qin Lin's sleeve tightly, for fear that the answer would be too worrying. Qin Lin was naturally flustered, but seeing that his family was nervous, he habitually put on the appearance of elder brother and tried to keep calm. Seeing that they were so nervous, Emo Shanghua couldn't help smiling. You don't have to be so nervous. Just now, Qin Lin has been aphasia because he hasn't spoken for a long time. It's also the reason why he hasn't been able to write for a long time. In the future, we just need to teach him word by word. After a pause, she said, It's also my own problem these days. I haven't had time to give Qin Lin a diagnosis and treatment, so it's not a big mistake now. Qinya, you and Qin Lin are brothers and sisters, and they are often together. Come to teach Qin Lin to speak well in the future. Qin Lin was greatly relieved, and then grinned very simple and honest. Qinya was already overjoyed when she heard the words of Emo Shanghua. She even stopped her tears. Now she got the words of Emo Shanghua, and she couldn't hide her smile. Yes, I know. The princess doesn't have to blame herself too much. How depressed you are these days, I see it in my eyes. Emo Flower slightly nodded, ice color Qingming. Rest assured, I will not be so. Then she saw that Qin Lin and Qinya were in a good mood at the moment and added, You two are so happy. I'm outstanding. You can take a break for 2 days and come back to serve in 2 days. Qinya, you must have not played enough before you went out of the house. I'll give you my waist tag. You can go out with Qin Lin as much as possible. Qin Lin and Qinya both looked at each other and saw a similar smile. They knelt down and bowed down to salute. Thank you for your kindness. Don't be polite. Get up. Emo Shanghua came forward to help them, and then took out the waist tag and put it into Qinya's hand. Go. Qinya took the waist token, couldn't help blinking at the flowers on the street, and said with a smile, The maidservant is not here these 2 days, the concubine should not always think about it. If I'm here every day, I'm afraid my ears are not clean. With a smile in his eyes and eyebrows, he made fun of Qinya. Qinya's ruddy lips pouted out and said angrily, The princess is so disgusted with the maid. The maid will shut her mouth in front of the princess in the future to see if you are suffocating. Sharp teeth and sharp mouth. Emo Shanghua raised her hand and lightly touched Qinya's forehead. If you talk back again, you will be punished for your monthly salary. Hearing this, Qinya immediately begged for mercy. Good princess, I don't want to say it. You can never deduct my monthly money. Qin Lin couldn't put in any words, so he just looked at it quietly, with a smile on his lips. He was in a good mood. The whole room is a rare laughter. Even the air seems to be infected with a cheerful atmosphere. The next day after Qin Lin and Qinya were allowed to have a rest, they disappeared early in the morning. They must have gone out to play somewhere. Emo Shanghua thought that for such a rare 2-day leisure, they didn't let anyone know where they were going. He simply let them go to play. However, she didn't have Qinya to wait on her for a while, but she didn't get used to it for a while. After calling no one, she subconsciously wanted to go to Qinya's room to see why she didn't get up. Recently, it's getting more and more pretentious. In the middle of the line, the flower in the street stopped and began to speak in a low voice. In her previous life, she has always been alone, and her emotions are not as rich as they are now. Now, in her own words, she is more than twice as sentimental. Shaking his head, Emo Shanghua just turned back to the bedroom, just went in, and saw a maid looking around in the room, as if looking for something. What are you doing? Emo Shanghua's face coagulated and stepped in. Happy princess. Hearing this, the maid turned around. She was a maid who was in charge of sweeping. She is also smart. See the flower face slightly coagulation. Afraid she misunderstood, hurriedly explained. Sister Qinya is not here today. Maidservant is ordered by Sister Qinya to be on duty outside. Just came in and asked no one to answer. This is to explore everywhere. The eyes of the flower in the street were silent like a well for a moment. Seeing her face as usual, she nodded. Tell me what's the matter? If you go back to the princess, It's Mrs. Nan who wants to see you. Now she's waiting in the hall. At this juncture, what happened to Nanha? If no one mentioned it, she almost forgot that the relationship between Nanha and Yan Beiqing is still unclear. If she had to ask Yan Beiqing herself, she was afraid that she would not be able to say anything. But if she didn't ask, she would have a feeling that she couldn't explain clearly. She didn't want to see Nanha originally. After all, her ears are just clear now. But at this time, she suddenly changed her mind. You go back and I'll be there later. Yes. See the princess. The South Crane sees the flower on the road. This just not anxious, not slowing rises to worship. No gift. Emo Shanghua stepped up to the top of the throne and sat down. Then she turned her eyes to look at the South Crane. At this time, the South Crane was still pale and sick. It was almost summer, and he was still wearing a thick brocade cloak. He looked very weak and pitted. Emo Shanghua habitually carried the celadone-painted gold teacup in his hand, but the light of his eyes fell on Nanhe. Look at your face, it seems that the disease is not all right. South Crane slightly nodded, lips with a touch of light soft wan smile. Thank you for your concern. These days have been accompanied by the prince. The prince is gentle and affectionate. The maid concubine is more considerate, now already much better. The flowers on the street are as quiet as the valley. The color of the eyes is a little deeper, and the lips are slightly indisputable. The air stagnated for a moment. Nanhe was surprised to think that he had said something wrong, so he got up and knelt down with a low brow. I'm guilty. I said something wrong for a while, which made the princess unhappy. I hope the princess will forgive me. Emo Shanghua didn't open her mouth immediately. Instead, she played with the teacup in her hand for a long time and then said, When did I say I was unhappy? It's really hard for you to be so understanding. You can see what you have at a glance. No wonder the Lord has to accompany you all the time. That said, there was no intention of getting her up. Nanji was not flustered at all. She lowered her eyebrows and gathered her eyes. She knelt quietly in front of the flowers on the street. The words of the princess are blaming the maidservant and concubine. After a pause, without waiting for the flowers to bloom, she continued. Now that all the words have come to this place, the maidservant and concubine will simply make it clear. My concubine's trip was originally an apology to the princess. The cut willow eyebrows of the flowers on the street were slightly raised, with a smile on their face. I don't know which one you're talking about. Has Nanha done little these days? It's so puzzling today. It seems that we need to explore the reason. Now let's listen to what she sings first. The South Crane hears speech, not vexed, also not flustered. The warm voice, soft language also does not lose dignified, slowly to open mouth. The maidservant concubine knows. The princess these days' mood is not good, mostly because the prince accompanies in the maidservant concubine day by day, seldom comes to see the princess, causes the princess to miss the prince in the illness, but always cannot see, has harmed so many days gas. All these are maidservant concubines not. The flower on the street opens the lid of the golden teacup, and gently blows away the floating tea foam on the tea. It looks like it doesn't care much. Although the surface is like this, actually in her heart already sneer repeatedly. This South Crane surface says of so good to listen to, difficult isn't to intentionally come to show off wrong pet with her? Seeing that the flower on the street didn't speak, and the corners of his lips were tiny and indisputable, Nanhe quickly gathered them back. But I've known the Lord for several years. Before I entered the palace, I knew that the Lord was affectionate and gentle. You don't want to see that he has been so kind to me these days. In fact, I don't care too much about our love for many years. Speaking of this, she suddenly changed her tone, quite serious and sincere. I can see that you are in the heart of the Lord, but I heard that you had a quarrel a few days ago. The Lord loves face and naturally refuses to bow down. If you are willing to admit your mistake to the Lord will treat you as usual. Emo Shanghua's hand holding the tea was slightly stunned, and his eyes were a little chilly. So, the purpose of your coming here today is to show off your supreme honor, or to persuade me and the Lord? Before the South Crane opened his mouth, the flower on the street said coldly, In my opinion, you are more like the former. The South Crane body immediately lowered to go down, The brow of Lo Hangdown has no half-cent change actually. Maidservant concubine is not this meaning. The princess misunderstood. Mo Shanghua puts the teacup on the table. The teacup collides with the table and makes a slightly dull sound. The tea splashes on the inner wall of the teacup. In that case, why do you sit with a prince every day? The right one has known the prince for many years. Nanji, oh no, you are now a side princess. I should call you a side princess. Then Nanbian princess, you should talk about it now. Do you mean to humiliate my princess with such words? The South Crane's eyes passed a happy look at the success of the scheme, but his face was in a state of panic. The princess forgives me, but I have no such intention. After a pause, when Mo Shanghua was about to open her mouth again, she suddenly said, I only want to make amends because I got the hint from the prince. If the princess doesn't believe me, she can ask the prince in person. Mo Shanghua stood up and looked up at the South Crane kneeling on his head. Her red lips opened gently. You're not only guessing the intention of the Lord without permission, but also coming here with your own ideas. It's time to end on your own. However, even if you want to end well at the moment, the princess has no time to act with you. If you want to kneel, you can kneel. I don't want to accompany you. Finish saying, Mao Guang moves away from South Crane body. Don't look at her one eye. Then straight over her left here. From the moment she stood up, the whole person seemed to put on the dragon robe that only the emperor could wear, and looked down at the people with an absolutely high attitude. Nanha was at her feet, as if he was humble as a small mole ant, which could not be compared with her at all. Although she didn't want to admit it, Nanha had to say that she was just like a mole ant, which made her strong self-esteem thump again. She held her fingers tightly, and her slender nails almost pierced the tender flesh of her palm. However, at the thought of the jealousy in Mo Shanghua's eyes, she could not help but gently raise her lips, and her anger was quickly dispersed. Mo Shanghua, no matter you guess it or not, her goal of Nanha today has been successfully achieved. She had already figured it out. Even if Mo Shanghua guessed that her purpose today was to deliberately destroy her feelings with Yan Beicheng, but what about that? She knows emotion best. Even if it is clear that other people are deliberately sabotaging, as long as they hear about the beloved man and other women, their hearts will be uncontrollable jealousy. Mo Shanghua is also a woman, which is no exception. The most important thing is that as early as before, she had planted a seed about her relationship with Yan Beicheng and Mo Shanghua. After a long time, it will naturally take root and sprout, and become more and more lush. As for whether she will know the truth from Yan Beicheng, she is not worried. She knows him. How can he break his important chess because of a woman, and then break more plans in the future? Now, she just has to wait for the day when Mo Shanghua continues to quarrel with Yan Beicheng because of her jealousy. At that time, it's time to let her handle it. Thinking of the days after the flowers on the street were rejected by Yan Beicheng, she felt much more comfortable. Side Imperial concubine, how do you kneel here? Just as he was thinking about it, one of the maidservants who was assigned to serve Nan he came in with a wooden box in her arms. No harm, just a few admonitions from the princess. Nan he shook his head, but he got up immediately. When the maid came, she was supporting her. When she got up, she deliberately pressed most of her weight on her maidservant, making a state of kneeling knee damage for a long time. Sighed Imperial concubine. Even so, the maid easily lifted her up, symbolically worried. I'm fine. Let's go back. Nan he nibbles his lip and walks out of the hall with the help of his maid. Yes. When the maid saw this, she was naturally hard to say anything. However, when he thought of the things in the wooden box, he couldn't help saying more. Princess, what about the dong yijiao in the box? It's the best yijiao. You're not willing to use it. Do you want to give it now? She just came here now, because she forgot to bring it when she came out. She was sent back by Nanha. She came later and missed everything. Don't bother the princess. Let's go back. Nanha glanced at the wooden box. After careful consideration, he just said so. They left one after another. It has to be said that Nanha's method is indeed the most effective and the most lethal. How does Mo Shanghua tell herself again and again in her heart that she can't believe it? But she still fantasizes about the past and present of hundreds of Yanbei City and Nanha in her mind, which makes her feel depressed and painful. The seed that Nanha had planted earlier really grew slowly in her heart. The branch of the tree almost pierced her heart and pierced countless blood holes, overflowing with a little pain. The real relationship between Nanha and Yanbeiqing had to be brought to the stage by her. It was like a tangled thread winding around her heart, which made her feel a bit depressed besides pain. Mo Shanghua irritably pushed down a writing case filled with writing brush. The writing brush suddenly scattered all over the table and fell into the inkstone. Several writing brushes dipped in ink rolled on the table and stained the writing case with a lot of ink. Mo Shanghua stares at the dots of ink on the dark red sandalwood tabletop, only to feel that the whole person is stunned. After a while, she comes back to her senses and can't help fretting and grabbing the neat bun. She had just lost her sense of propriety. She was so unlike herself that she could never let herself go on like this. So thinking, Mo Shanghua does not close his eyes and tries to drive Yanbeiqing's figure out of his mind. However, the more Yanbeiqing's figure was following her no matter what. No, she can't. She has to find something for herself. Mo Shanghua thinks of Yinji in the wing room and suddenly realizes that it's a good way to forget other things. Without even clearing up the bookcase, she directly finds her own medicine bag and covers her veil, so that Yinji won't see that she is stimulated. So she goes to the wing room. At this time, Yunji's chest injury has been healed. Her face, which had been emaciated because she had been sent to a place similar to the cold palace, now has some meat, and has recovered her old health and mellow. The maid who is in charge of taking care of Yunji sees that the flowers are coming, so she goes forward actively. Princess, this is the record of Mrs. Yun's daily food, drink and residence for half a month, as well as the medication record. The maid was selected by Qinya, and she did things carefully. Qinya told her that she did things carefully. Every page was very neat and detailed. The key points to write down were half lost, and the superfluous things she didn't need to remember were not mentioned at all. Mo Shanghua nodded slightly, took the notebook handed over by the maid, looked at it carefully, and said, "Not bad." "Thank you, Princess." The maid did not lift her head when she saw the flower on the street. She looked very serious. The one with eyes didn't say much. She just bowed herself and gave a salute. She quietly stepped aside and waited for the flower's orders at any time. Mo Shanghua continued to look at the pamphlet in his hand, and his heart was slowly settled. When she settled down, she read the booklet much faster. After a while, she closed the booklet, turned her eyes and looked at the maid. "According to the book, Yunji is sleeping now? Before you come here, I have seen it. Madame Yun is asleep now." Here Mo Shanghua asked, "Have been waiting for the maid as far as possible." Next to this just came forward, obedient mouth. "I'll go in and have a look. You have a good record of this book, and you can continue to do so in the future." Mo Shanghua gives the booklet back to Qinya, puts on the veil, and enters the bedroom with a bead curtain. At that time, Yunji was lying on the bed with her eyes closed. She was breathing long, and obviously she was very well asleep. Nevertheless, Yunji wakes up in the middle of the journey, and Mo Shanghua seals her sleeping hole first to ensure that she won't wake up. Then, Mo Shanghua leans down to lift the thin quilt on Yunji's body, revealing her whole upper body, and then continues to untie the middle garment buckle neatly, revealing the inner garment close to her body. The inner garment is very small, which can only cover the chest and abdomen. As for the position of the left chest and heart, it is inevitable to show. Now the bandage has been removed from Yunji's left chest wound, and the view inside the house is excellent. The flowers on the street can clearly see that the original ferocious knife wound has been healed for most of the time, leaving only the broken scars. Seeing that the wound is so good, she decides a lot. She takes out the plaster and spreads it on Yunji's wound. Then she rearranges her clothes. At present, the injury is better than half, and she won't crack the wound because of the emotional collapse during the treatment. Next, she will also seize the time to treat Yunji's madness. Thinking of this, she simply sat down at the edge of the bed, took Yunji's wrist out of the clinic, confirmed it again, and saw that the injury was really stable, so she began to prepare to wake her up. Just as she was about to solve her sleeping hole, she heard a voice of annoyance from outside the sand window in the quiet room. It was so loud that she tried to pretend that she could not hear it. Besides, it seemed that it was Qinya. At this time, how could Qinya come back in a huff? What happened? Thinking about this, Mo Shanghua didn't think about it for the time being, so he put Yunji's wrist back and got up and went out. When she got out of the wing room, she saw that Qinya was sitting in the corridor, holding her face in both hands. She was very angry and cursed from time to time. These snobbish people are used to being at the helm of the wind. The princess is not out of favor now. They dare to be like this. Qin Lin's nature is simple and honest, and he is a cucurbitary. But he has always loved Qinya. If he had been comforted by Qinya, he didn't say a word now, and his face is not very good. It can be seen that he is also angry. Mo Shanghua sees this, in the heart about also understand a few minutes, lift a step then stride to go. Is who see again is what wind, what rudder. Qinya has always been a straightforward character. When she saw the flowers coming from a stranger, she couldn't help but say, "It's not the things in the house that look down on people." Seeing this, Qin Lin quickly put his hand over Qinya's mouth and said in sign language, "Princess, it's useless for us. You are useful and useless. The important thing is, how can I be bullied easily by others when I am a stranger to flowers?" The flowers on the street suddenly became cold, and the temperature of the whole body dropped suddenly. Qin Lin, although you let Qinya say, "I want to see who bullied my people." Qin Lin felt a shock all over his body, and was moved by the words of Mo Shanghua. Unconsciously, he released his hand to cover Qinya's mouth. As soon as Qinya got rid of it, she stood up quickly and said angrily, "Well, my brother and I have been walking around the house. I wanted to go to the house to listen to the music you said last time, but when I got to the door, I got the waist tag, but the bodyguard refused to let the maid and brother go out." At this point, she swallowed and exchanged her breath. She was about to continue to say that Qin Lin had let her say, but when Qinya said that, he could not help but raise his hand to stop her. But Qinya always has a quick tongue. Before he had time, he saw Qinya's mouth bulging. He continued angrily, "What else do they say? You are still forbidden. As people in your house, your maidservant and elder brother will naturally follow you. You can't step out of the palace, even if you have a waist tag." At this point her mouth Emil, faltering for a long time, but still bite the lip, did not continue to say. Mo Shanghua knows Qinya's character best. When she looks like this, she knows that she must have something to say. She calmly says, "Go on." Qin Lin and Qinya have been with Mo Shanghua for a long time. Naturally, they know her personality. Seeing that her face is so calm, they know that she is angry now, and her words can't be disobeyed. Qinya hesitated for a moment for fear that she would not say that the flower meeting on the street would be even more irritated. She said, "When I came back, I heard a lot of girls talking about it, saying that Madame Nan has been granted the side imperial concubine now, and you are out of favor with the prince. I'm afraid you will be replaced soon." The more she talked about the back, the smaller her voice was. Her eyes were always looking up at the flower's face. I was afraid that she was angry. There was a dead silence in the air. Qinya was so annoyed that she couldn't help looking up at her brother helplessly and remorsefully. However, Qin Lin at that time didn't know how to persuade him. She scratched her head and looked upset. When both of them were very upset, they saw the silent flowers on the street for a long time. The corners of their lips suddenly moved slightly, and set off a little cold radiance. There was a full color of ice between their eyes and eyebrows. Good. Qin Lin's heart is a move, some nervous looking at the flowers on the street, just afraid that she will directly change face next second. However, after waiting for a long time, the face of the flower on the street is still calm as before, only the whole body is suddenly cold. It's as cold as a hole in the ice in the cold winter. She directly took out the princess's private seal that only the princess was qualified to use, and sent it to Qinya. "You take this thing directly, and tell them that no matter what the future may be, now most of the power of the palace is still in the hands of the princess, and the ban is only limited to my not leaving the courtyard. As for the people in the courtyard, they can go in and out at will." After a pause, she said, If they still refuse to release people, you will directly change their posts and drive them out of the government. Seeing the private seal is like seeing the princess being killed by me. If they really don't pay attention to me, there's no need to stay in the palace. Qinya held the private seal in her hand. Seeing that it was only 2 thumbs in thickness, she felt as if she had weighed 1,000 pounds. She said hurriedly, "Princess, this can't be used. This private seal is so important. If it's damaged." Seeing this, Qinlin quickly and carefully took it back from Qinya's heart and presented it to Mo Shanghua again. He blurted out a sentence, "Yes, yes, no, no, IMO." So vague language can only vaguely guess a can't make, but the words behind his half also can't guess, but its meaning is almost the same. You've used it, and it's not too late to return. Mo Shanghua closed the palm of Qinlin's hand and pushed back. "I can't go out now. They don't dare to say more with this, so you always have to accept it." At this point, she suddenly thought of something, and her eyes were cold. As for those who chew their tongue, I can't help it, but I can't help it. I just grab a few first-class servant girls to fight and blame them. If I do this, I can lock many people's mouths. Qinya heard what Mo Shanghua said. She was frightened at the beginning of her life. She immediately clenched her fist and was eager to give it a try. "Princess, you can rest assured that your maidservant will never give them good fruit this time. She will surely earn our face back. They will dare to bully us in the future." Qinlin stood with her lips for a long time, then pulled Qinya to kneel down and gave a big salute to the flowers on the street. Qinya understood Qinlin's intention at the moment of kneeling down. She also accepted the smile, straightened out her posture and saluted. Mo Shanghua looked at their solemn appearance, but her heart was a little complicated. "I just lost a little favor. Why are you two so easily moved? My heart is so soft that I am afraid I will be easily hindered by it in the future." Just thinking about it, he saw Qinlin raise his head and use sign language slowly. "The princess will not be angry easily. If she can be angry today, it will be enough to see her treating us." Mo Shanghua understood Qinlin's meaning, but she was stunned in her heart. "I didn't know before that you were a man, but you were so careful." I'm afraid Qinya didn't even think of this detail, but Qinlin was very careful when he read it here. Qinlin smelled the speech, but he was a little embarrassed to smile, and his weak cheek showed a bit of shyness. "Brother, why are you blushing?" Qinya glanced at Qinlin's manner, and could not help shouting, laughing at him. Qinlinton raised his hand and poked Qinya's forehead. Then he gave another salute to Mo Shanghua, and quickly took his private seal and left. Seeing this, Qinya spat out her tongue at the flower on the street, and chased her out. Mo Shanghua saw 2 people leave, can't help rubbing the forehead, face with helpless color. The temperament of these 2 brothers and sisters is quite different. At that time, in the Imperial City Prime Minister's mansion, Lu Qianqian received the urgent secret letter from Yuzhou 800. After burning it under the candle fire, he called Qing'er in. "Qing'er, get ready. I'm going to change my clothes to see my father. By the way, I'll cook the blood swallow which was given by Empress Shu a few days ago. Later, I'll take it to my father together." "Yes." Qing'er bows and prepares. When everything is ready, Lu Qianqian goes to Lu Xiang's study with a newly cooked swallow. At this time Lu Xiangjing was sitting in front of the case, looking at some spies, frowning, as if he was worried about something. When the guard in front of the study saw that it was Lu Qianqian who was coming, he didn't stop them. Lu Qianqian asked them not to report, so no one dared to move. It's not because of Lu Qianqian's bad temper. On the contrary, Lu Qianqian's temper is so good that he was replaced by someone else. He has been living in exile for more than 10 years. The master feels guilty and loves her very much. There is no one in the house to compare with him. Such a master, of course, they should always be careful and put on the top of their hearts. Is Dad worried about the affairs in the court again? In the study, when it was quiet, Lu Qian's soft voice suddenly rang out. If someone else dares to disturb him at this time, Lu Xiang must be angry on the spot. But at this time, he has no anger on his face. Instead, he stretches his eyebrows and says, "Qianqian, it's so late. How did you come here?" Lu Qianqian's gentle and dignified face habitually brought a smile, which made people feel close. I heard that the border is always restless these days. When Qianqian guessed, he knew that his father must be worried about it, so he personally cooked the bird's nest to give his father relief. With that, he turned around and took down the gold cup with the blood swallow from the tray that Qing'er had been carrying for a long time. He gently placed it in front of Lu Xiang. It was elegant. Seeing this, Qing'er said sweetly, "Master, this swallow is on the palace banquet a few days ago. The lady gave it to you, but the girl hasn't been willing to eat it." Lu Xiang's heart was filled with the comfort of his daughter's understanding, but now listening to Qing'er's words, his heart adds a bit of guilt. It was all his fault that made the child so rare, even a blood swallow. However, her filial piety was really rare. Think of here, he sees Lu Qianqian's vision more and more cherish. "Qianqian, you are so filial and sensible. How can you make up for what you owe your father?" Lu Qianqian hurriedly shook, his face disapproved of the color. "Father, don't want to say so. That year's thing is just an accident. Qianqian now so happy. Father, or quickly eat this bird's nest, a while can be cold." Then, for fear that Lu Xiang couldn't put down the things in his hand, he quickly took the spy to prevent him from looking at it. This kind of bold behavior, if you change to be a stranger in the past, you will be scolded for not knowing the rules. But now Lu Qianqian does it, but she only feels cute. "Well, father, I'll listen to you." The more Lu Xiang looks at Lu Qianqian, the more cute he feels. He has a smile on his face. He simply listens to her and starts eating the bird's nest. Taking advantage of Lu Xiang's porridge time, Lu Qianqian looks around like he's bored. Then he lowers his head and curiously opens up the spy. Coincidentally, this spy report is about the border people. It's not surprising that the news has been spread all over the world. As for the private ones, Yin Moli was defeated and seriously injured at that time, and he was recuperating in the nearby city of Yanbei. What's more, the mobs had harassed Yuzhou once last time, but they had been repelled by the guards. Lu Xiang is eating bird's nest with his head down. He has never noticed Lu Qian's action. When he finds out, Lu Qianqian has already looked at the spy. He mumbles to himself as if he is in a trance. It's such a thing, but it's not as tricky as he imagined. Lu Qianqian's murmur came to his ears. Lu Xiang noticed what Lu Qianqian was doing. His face suddenly changed. "Qianqian, what are you doing?" Lu Qianqian didn't peep at Yao Jing's fear when he was found. He just looked up at Lu Xiang, who was still immersed in the espionage. "My daughter is just thinking about how to expel these people." Lu Xiang originally had some taboos, but seeing Lu Qian's serious appearance, he couldn't bear to suppress his original temperament and said, "How does Qian think?" Lu Qianqian frowned and looked at the fold for a while. It seemed that he was lost in thought. After a long time, he raised his head and said, "Qianqian's knowledge is shallow, but he doesn't understand it very well. He just thinks that these rioters are too strange. It's not easy to think of this when I first came into contact with this matter." Lu Xiang nodded slightly, with a look of approval on his face. "There's nothing strange about it. It's just that the next small county in Yuzhou has suffered a grain disaster, and many refugees have escaped. Unexpectedly, after these refugees fled to a county near Yuzhou, they still have no money to buy food. They started by robbing their homes. Then they seem to be worried about the officers' and soldiers' suppression of bandits, and they incite people to sit up. I'm sorry for all this treachery." When Lu Qianqian heard the speech, his eyes dropped down again, and he fell into a state of meditation again. After a while, she raised her head and said, "Qianqian dares to guess that the imperial court is now losing its troops after the Second Royal Highness of Yi has been calculated. What should be done in the future?" Exactly what does Qianqian have in mind? Lu Xiang originally just wanted to see what Lu Qian's opinion was. Now that he had no outsider here, he simply let her talk about her own opinion, so as not to be suffocated when she thought of things. This time, Lu Qianqian only had a little pause, and then he opened his lips and talked about it. "Father, according to Qianqian, since your highness is in Yuzhou City, why don't you borrow troops from Yuzhou directly?" He didn't know. He just thought it was the most convenient place. Yuzhou was a big state, so there should be at least 10,000 troops stationed here. Not right. Lu Xiangmei locked his head tightly and didn't agree with him. King Yu, the ruler of Yuzhou, is an ignorant person. He doesn't even know the garrison situation of Yuzhou, and he doesn't know how to practice. If he borrows it to His Highness at will, he will put His Highness in a dangerous place. Lu Qianqian heard the speech, but he laughed. How can my father forget that those people who are in trouble are untrained grassroots people? Even if the Yuzhou garrison is useless, it is impossible to beat them all. But they are extraordinary. If they were not, His Second Highness would not have started. At this point, Lu Xiang couldn't help sighing. He seemed very sad. Lu Qianqian thought about it carefully and thought about it for a moment before he said, although Qianqian doesn't understand these things, he probably knows that marching and fighting should pay attention to the right time and place. Since the mob can reach Yuzhou, it means that the two places are very close. Therefore, Qianqian thinks that there is really no place more suitable than that. When Lu Xiang heard the speech, he couldn't help but fall into a deep meditation, and didn't speak for a long time. Seeing this, Lu Qianqian turned around and walked thoughtfully, and went on. Elder sister, she has been in the Prime Minister's residence for more than 10 years. If she can write another letter, let her elder sister persuade His Royal Highness, you to send the best soldiers to help His Second Highness in the future. It's not your sister. I'll talk about it later. Lu Xiang's face was ugly for a moment, and the whole face was gloomy. Lu Qianqian's lips were slightly crooked and disappeared as if it had never happened. Then she can't help but flat mouth, a girl's home Jiaohan aggrieved appearance. Yes, daughter, no, in the future will not mention. Lu Xiang's face softened a little bit, but it was not so good. Well, it's getting late. You should go back to have a rest. My father will consider your idea. Yes, that father definitely wants to have a good rest. Qian leaves. After Lu Qian's graceful salute, she turned around and went out. Not long after Fong came out of the study, Lu Qian couldn't help but show his restrained smile. His eyebrows and eyes could not help letting out a bit of satisfaction, and he was in a very good mood. The fine son doesn't understand of looking at own master son. Can't help asking away. Girl, the master isn't yet agree. Why do you so happy now? You know what? Lu Qianqian glanced at Qing'er and said, many of these words are pointed out in His Highness's secret letter. My father is so guilty of me that he always thinks more about my words. When he just came out, didn't you see his father's look? In his heart he clearly agrees, and he will agree in the end. When the dust settles, His Highness will surely love her more. Maybe he can settle the marriage as soon as possible. Thinking about this, the radiance of her lips became bigger and bigger, and the corners of her eyes and eyebrows were full of pride. Yuzhou Huiqianliu played with the wine in his hand and looked at Yanbei City sitting opposite him with a smile. I've said all that Xiaomahua should say, and then it depends on your own fortune. Yan Beiqing's sword eyebrows suddenly wrinkled, and his face was hard to understand. What kind of fortune? Hua Qianlu couldn't help laughing, as if she had heard something very interesting. I said, you don't expect a girl's family to bow to you. It's really not authentic. When Yan Beiqing heard the speech, his thin lips were slightly pursed, but his cold face was half empty. He directly turned away from the topic and said, what's the matter with the mob? Is there any news in the imperial city? Hua Qianlu put the folding fan on his forehead. A pair of fox's eyes picked up slightly and scratched a little, which meant that he didn't know what to say. Forgive me, brother Beiqing. You've been so alone for so many years. It's really not without a reason. Say very sigh of again way. Be really Magoo. Yan Beiqing raised his eyes slightly. He always looked at the willows with cold and sharp eyes. The look in his eyes was so clear that he couldn't see what he wanted. Fortunately, Hua Qianlu had a certain understanding of him, and knew that he was listening to him. So far he didn't mention. My earliest tip here is that people in the former dynasty were arguing about the issue of the mob. Some people asked for orders to send others, and some of them supported Yan Moli. They are about to fight. It's very busy. Yan Beiqing nodded slightly, and his lips gently raised a cold radiance. Yan Moli has also handed a fold to the capital these days. I haven't found the channel for his secret message yet. I don't know what you can find there. Hua Qianlu closed the folding fan, smiling a little on his face. This boy is smart and tight. I haven't found it yet, but if time is enough, it's not impossible. Yen North City 10,000 years cold. Well, say my eye color suddenly deepens. The eye inside the expression is quiet. Only afraid. We can wait, he can't wait. With the private seal of the flowers on the street, the guard naturally did not dare to say anything. Qin Lin and Qinya took a hard breath, but they were not too arrogant. They seriously punished the garrulous servants in the house. Qi comes back to Qi, but think about it carefully. Mo Shanghua always doesn't care about his reputation. And if he uses thunder to clean up some people, he will destroy Mo Shanghua's connections in the palace. As for the next few days, Mo Shanghua was shut up in the house and treated and observed Yanji's illness. There was no movement on the South Crane's side, and every day he kept his peace. Even Yen Mo Li's side are in peace of mind to heal, without any change. This day, Mo Shanghua just came out of Yunji's side room, and saw that Qin Yajing was looking at the direction of the door, with a strange look on her face. Mo Shanghua saw that she looked like this, so she casually asked, "You look like this, but what interesting things did you hear?" As soon as Qinya heard that the flowers were coming, she turned around and said, "Princess, I don't know if it's something wrong with my eyes or what. I just seem to have seen the Lord. But in a twinkling of an eye, I can't tell if it's true. But since the prince came to see the princess that day, he has never been to their courtyard." She was surprised to hear that he had been accompanying the princess in the south. The eyes of Hua Kongyu on the street passed a pale color, and his heart was uncontrollably depressed, but his face was unharmed. "Oh, maybe you are wrong." Only so said Mo Shanghua only feel depressed in the heart, turn around and then want to go back to the room. Just then he turned around and saw Qinya coming like a smoke. He stuttered with the words he had just learned in recent days, while habitually gesticulating with his hands. "Princess, there is an urgent imperial edict in the front hall. The king and the lord ask you to go to the front hall to receive the edict together." The edict. On the street, Flower Cut's beautiful thin eyebrow can't help but see you. In the heart of the alarm sound again and again hit up. In the heart, big feeling is not good. Sure enough, when I got to the front hall, I found that not only Yen Beiqing was there, but also Yen Moli, who had never been out of the house, had been waiting here for a long time. The eunuch who read out the imperial edict had a dusty face. However, due to Yen Moli's identity, he did not dare to complain. When Mo Shanghua came to Yen Beiqing, the three men knelt down properly, and then they started to read out the imperial edict with a sharp male duck voice. In honor of heaven, the emperor ordered that it was a heinous crime for the people of Anzhou to hurt our people and our emperor's son. I knew from afar that the people of Anzhou were cunning and dangerous in the south of the border. I was afraid that the second prince would not be able to be pacified by himself. I specially ordered the second prince Yen Moli to be the commander-in-chief, and the king of Yu Yen Beiqing to be the deputy commander-in-chief. If you need to transfer generals, you can transfer them from Yuzhou at will, and I will be here. Thank you, Lord Long. They all bent down to touch the ground with their foreheads and gave thanks. However, facing the ground, their expressions were different. Yen Moli is not surprised, eyes even calm, as if everything is under control. As for Yanbei City, it seems to be muddled, but in those deep eyes, it is full of the surging color that others can't understand. Only the flowers on the street, the ancient well-like eyes suddenly start a huge wave, willow eyebrows tightly frown into a ball. All the people in the imperial city know that Yanbei City is a real waste of firewood. Yuzhou can be managed properly in his hands only because he is a nominal person. Yuzhou's affairs are handled by his subordinates, and he has no credit at all. How could the emperor suddenly send him as deputy commander? This edict is really very strange. The eunuch didn't know how many people were thinking. After a few people gave thanks, he came forward and handed the imperial edict to Yen Moli. Second Highness, you should put away the imperial edict. It is clear that Yanbei City is the Prince of Yiping according to the rank. Yen Moli is just a prince without a title. But the eunuch doesn't even look at Yanbei City. It's just because Yanbei City was hated by the emperor since childhood. Although he has a title, he can only stay in this remote place and has no chance to enter Beijing. Therefore, he is so powerful. Yan Mo Li quietly swept Yan Beicheng's look with Yu Guang, and then politely laughed, took the imperial edict in both hands. Thank you, father-in-law. Yan Beicheng didn't care about it, as if he didn't care about it. However, his face turned bitter. How could my father suddenly send such an imperial edict down? I don't know how to march and fight. How could I make my king deputy commander? If I lost, would my father not? Before the end of a sentence, Mo Shanghua looked frightened. For fear that Yan Beicheng might say something wrong, he quickly covered his mouth, turned his head to Yan Mo Li and the eunuch, and explained. The Lord has not had a good rest in recent days, and he is not in a good spirit. Maybe he didn't sleep well today. If he made a slip of the tongue, we should not blame him. The eunuch looked up and down at Mo Shanghua. Seeing that she was smiling with her, she was a little more daring, so she said sarcastically, "Oh, isn't this the concubine lady of Prime Minister Lu's family? It seems that she's living well now. Not only is her face healed, but she's also brave. The prince's golden mouth dares to cover it." He bit the word Miss Concubine very hard, and the eunuch said it in such a sharp duck voice, which made it very harsh. I just wanted to sew his mouth. We all know what happened to the identity of a commoner, and we can see his heart more clearly. Before Mo Shanghua was angry, Yan Beicheng took Mo Shanghua's hand down and looked at the eunuch unhappily. My princess, I just like her. What's the matter with you? Say put the hand of Mo Shanghua to pick up again. Pulled lip side to kiss forcefully. Yan Mo Li watched the play for a while. At the moment, he just opened his mouth. His eyes fell on the eunuch. My father-in-law is coming far away. I think he is tired. Come and see him back to the post station. He was very clever to avoid talking about it. Instead, he said that the eunuch had to shut up, and went out under the guidance of his servants. When she saw that someone was gone, she didn't want to be too entangled with the matter just now. She only took back her hand as usual, as if nothing had happened just now. My lord has never been given such a job before, but now His Majesty suddenly orders, which is really sudden. In the middle of the speech, her eyes turned to Yan Mo Li, and the light at the bottom of her eyes flickered. Your Second Highness has always been very far-sighted. What's your opinion? When Yan Beicheng heard the speech, he went to one side and sat down. He was very agitated and lay on the table. Yes, it's not enough for me to accompany the beauty all day. I don't have time to go there. I really have a headache. Yan Mo Li's face did not change. He said speciously, Su Shi's brother's achievements in Wujuan a few days ago are known by his father. He wants to see his brother's ability. I don't know what I can do. Yan Beicheng immediately cried bitterly. The last thing was not the king's good luck, and the princess was smart. This time I want the king to be the deputy commander, but it's not the king's life. Second brother, you have to save the king. Brother Huang, it's not a fatal thing. How can it be so serious? Yan Mo Li shook his head, quite a little disapproval. The flower eyes on the street shimmered and said in a soft voice, Your Highness doesn't know. The Lord is used to idling in ordinary days. The affairs of Yuzhou are all handled by others. There is really no research on these. It's not too much to say that it's necessary to save lives for such an important thing in Lanshang now. After a pause, her willow eyebrows slightly frowned. She was distressed and worried. Second Highness, you are the commander-in-chief. I still need to rely on you for this trip. I hope you can talk more about it. Yan Beicheng immediately nodded beside him like a pound of garlic. What the princess said is what I think in my heart, second brother. When it comes to the back, there is a kind of begging tone in his words, and his face is full of bitterness and hatred. It can be seen that he is really worried. It seems that he is just a waste, just like the rumor. Yan Mo Li Maoguang quietly looked at Yan Beicheng's eyes, and saw that his eyes were clear, not like camouflage. He just gently pulled his lips and gave a faint smile. Brother Huang, our palace and you are close relatives. If you are really distressed, our palace will not sit back and ignore you. After a pause, he pondered for a moment, as if thinking bitterly. The remaining 5,000 scattered soldiers of our palace will soon be able to make peace with our palace. I heard that Yuzhou has 30,000 soldiers, So the emperor's younger brother might as well send out 10,000 directly and march into Anzhou together. At that time, you just need to follow our palace in the rear. If there are soldiers going, our palace is coming to make plans. I think those chaotic people will not be able to make it if you resist. You will be defeated at this point. Mo Shanghua just roughly guessed the pass, and she could not help sneering in her heart. It turned out that he wanted to fight Yuzhou soldiers and horses. He had many previous calculations, but he was really good at fighting step by step. Thinking about this in her heart, she said, "I'm an ordinary woman, but if I need to, I'll do my part." As she spoke, her quiet eyes looked at Yan Moli and looked at him for a moment, as if she wanted to convey some message. Yan Moli naturally understood the meaning of the flowers on the street. His eyes were deep, but he didn't seem to see anything on his face. He was still polite and polite. "The lord of the princess, I don't think I'm qualified to be here." They were quietly speaking some secret words. In the eyes of Yanbei City, they became strangers and talked with other men. Suddenly they were jealous. They stepped up uncontrollably and stood in the middle of them. How can you just say something that the king doesn't understand? What's the point of not transferring troops? The king doesn't know. Or did he call General Mo come on? But General Mo Jiang Mo, who has been guarding Yuzhou for many years. Yan Moli picked his eyebrows slightly, with a curious look on his face. Yan Beiqing nodded and ordered people to go down and invite Mo Jiang. Fong said, "Brother Huang really knows everything. Even the generals of this small town know it. If you put these words on others, you have ulterior motives. But now when you put them on Yan Beiqing, they can only be regarded as unintentional words." Yan Moli naturally can't care. He just smiles modestly and has nothing else to do. Yan Beiqing's people usually don't look very reliable. At this time they are still quick. Soon they invite Mo Jiang over. Naturally, this kind of occasion is not suitable for Mo Hua to participate in, but she naturally did not want to miss such an occasion, so she hid in a thin curtain. Mo Jiang has been stationed at the border for many years, but he is not as handsome as many people think. On the contrary, he has a pretty face. His skin is not as white as that of a rich man. He has a healthy wheat color. Although he is not so murderous, he has a calm atmosphere and is tall and strong. If he really wants to be compared with the white face of a middle and small school in Beijing, he is more beautiful charm. The flowers on the street can't see clearly through the curtain. Only a tall figure can be seen. After coming in, Yan Moli kneels down on one knee facing Yan Beiqing. His deep voice comes from behind the curtain. Finally, he will see the Lord and his second highness. "Get up." Yan Beiqing waved his hand impatiently, and then turned his eyes to Yan Moli. "Brother Huang, this is General Mo. If you have something, just tell him." Having said that, he didn't ask Mo Jiang to obey Yan Moli's arrangement. In this way, he left a way back for himself. Yan Moli saw this, just nodded slightly, and then directly handed the imperial edict to Mo Jiang. "This is the imperial edict of my father. Please have a look at General Mo." Mo Jiang used to look puzzled. Now when he saw the imperial edict, his face suddenly became solemn, and he bent slightly. The emperor had an edict, and he would go through fire and water, and he would not give up. It's too serious to say that. General Mo only needs to obey military orders these days. Yan Moli stepped forward to help the people up in person and said, "Now we need to know the specific number of troops stationed in Yuzhou, as well as the situation of troops and horses. We need to collect all these information one by one. Let's talk about them one by one." Although he said that, Mo Jiang was also under the command of Yanbei City. He looked up at Yanbei City and saw that he was lowering his head and pouring tea. He looked like he had nothing to do with himself. He just said, "Yes, Your Highness Rong Bing." The whole territory of Yuzhou now has 320,400 elite troops, which are scattered all over Yuzhou. As for troops, horses, grain and grass, Yuzhou is not rich, but these are all in supply. Yan Moli when speech, can't help but gently nod. Mao Guang quite appreciate looking at Mo Jiang. Mo General is worthy of garrison for many years. Don't want to prepare to be able to question and answer like flow. Mo Jiang's head is slightly drooping, but his back is straight. These are the duties of the last general. If you can't remember them, it's wrong. Not humble, not overbearing, good. Yen Moli praised it in his heart, then stood up and said, "Back to the point, you have seen the imperial edict. The rebellion in Anzhou is urgent. More importantly, they reached Yuzhou a few days ago. We can't wait for General Mo to listen to the order." He suddenly said, "Our hall orders you to dispatch 8,000 elite soldiers from all parts of Yuzhou, and integrate them with our 5,000 scattered soldiers meeting in 3 miles outside Yuzhou tomorrow afternoon. And then set out with our hall and the emperor's younger brother to settle the chaos in Anzhou. Remember, there is no amnesty for all those who escape halfway." "I will obey you." Mo Jiang knelt down on one knee, slightly lowered his head, straightened his back, and raised his voice a few degrees, especially with posture. "So good, so good." Yan Beicheng, who had been staying leisurely for a long time, came forward with no comment. It is obvious that such a lazy attitude is full of the belief that a nobleman's son who only knows how to eat, drink and play every day is true. Mo Jiang had been used to Yan Beicheng's attitude for a long time. Seeing that he didn't have any opinions, he said, "Since the Lord has no orders, the general will leave first and go back to make good preparations." Yan Moli nodded slightly, and then his eyes fell on Yan Beicheng again. "Tomorrow you want to go out with you, go back to clean up." Mention this matter. Yan North City complexion immediately again bitter come down, one yen of answer away. Yes, this king knew. He was about to turn around and go out, but Mo Shanghua came out of the inner room at this time. He blessed Yan Mo slightly and said, "I heard that the mob was very cruel and insidious. Even His Highness had been caught in their plan before. The Lord went alone. I'm really worried. I hope His Highness will allow me to accompany him." After a pause, she said, "My medical skills must be known to all of us. At that time, we can also help in the army." Yan Moli didn't answer her immediately. Her tone was slightly raised, with some doubts and envy. "I heard that the princess seemed to have some trouble with her brother recently. I didn't expect that the princess was still so concerned about her brother now. It's really enviable." Yan Beicheng smells speech, directly will Mo Shanghua into his arms, full of smile mouth. "Husband and wife, this is like this, bed quarrel bed end, and the fun is natural." Mo Shanghua eyebrow heart tiny can't check of light see you for a while, but still resisted in the heart want to brush open his hand of impulse, cooperative tiny hook lip a smile. Yan Mo Li Mao Guang sweeps from the two people's intimate posture, eyes color slightly deep. Emperor younger brother and sister-in-law are so affectionate. How can this temple not become the beauty of people? Sister-in-law, if really want to go, then go. He had long guessed that Mo Shanghua would go, and he didn't intend to refuse. Now Mo Shanghua proposed, so he would not refuse. Yan Beicheng was like a child who had got candy. He was so happy that he made Hualan tighter. In this way, the king took the princess back first. Said, "Holding the flowers on the road will go out. Flowers on the road is also with the nest in his arms, to accompany her out." Not long after they left, Yan Moli's bodyguard came in and saluted him. "Your Highness, 5,000 elite soldiers have arrived 30 miles outside Yuzhou City. Do you want to move on? The movement is so slow. It seems that they are slacking off again these days when our hall is away." Yan Mo's face was expressionless. It seemed that his words of blame were just floating in his mouth. People couldn't guess for a moment whether he was happy or angry. The bodyguard was so nervous that he could not help but droop his head and dare not speak. Sure enough, Yan Mo's eyes flashed in the next second, and soon recovered as usual, saying, "Let them wait there. The Japanese hall of the Ming dynasty will lead the soldiers to make peace with them. In addition, the left vanguard who led the 5,000 people will be punished for 3 months. Yes, I'll tell you now." The bodyguard sighed for the striker in his heart, and answered in a loud voice, "Half a point without taboo." Both the master and the servant seemed to forget that this is King Yu's mansion, a place with ears and walls. However, it's not that they are not afraid, it's just that these things have been exposed and there is no need to cover them up. When Yan Beicheng sent Mo Shanghua back to the dockyard with such a close attitude, the whole house suddenly changed its attitude towards Nanha, and the people immediately began to speculate, for fear that they might miscalculate their fate and end up in a bad future. At that time, When they arrived in the dockyard, they dismissed the people, leaving only 2 of them for convenience. The house was silent for a long time, but Emo Shanghua just opened her mouth and broke the silence. I'm afraid that this incident came too quickly. It's not the emperor's whim, but the plan for many days. Now the purpose is clear. Nature can't be a whim. Because a few days ago Yan Beiqing had already exposed some of her original temperament in front of Emo Shanghua, and knew that she had already known his identity. At this time, the appearance of a dissolute child disguised as usual was faded. I'm afraid you don't know that although he ostensibly came to pacify the mob this time, in fact, only his soldiers and horses were in Anzhou before. As for himself, he went to the wrong place. This poison is the price he paid when he went to the wrong place. The color of his eyes is quiet, and his thin lip has no radiance. It's like a cold machine. It's very different from ordinary times. It's the dandy King Yu's dress, but his face looks like a cloaker. It's the first time that I've seen the flowers on the street in Yanbei City. I can't help but feel strange and complicated. How many faces does he have? However, in the end, what is important in front of her is just for a moment. The next second, Emo Shanghua returns to normal, and her eyes are also serious. Where did she go, and what's her purpose? After a pause, Emo Shanghua seemed to realize that it was inappropriate for him to be so directly afraid, and then said, he dared to leave the army to calm down the people in Anzhou quietly, risking such a crime of bullying the king, and quietly went to other places. The purpose must be not simple. Only if you understand it with me, can you guess its real purpose. Yan Moli is very deep in the city. To fight with him is to be with wolves. She has to think deeply. I thought that most of Yan Beiqing would not talk about it in detail, but I never thought that Yan Beiqing was just calm. When she finished speaking, she opened her mouth, and 2 simple words jumped out of his mouth. Jiangjun. Jiangjun. The flower eyebrow tip lightly picks. The facial expression does not understand. Seeing this, Yan Beiqing continued to explain in a low voice. Jiangjun is a branch camp of our secret guard camp, which is rich in iron industry. All the weapons used in the secret guard camp are produced from there, which is a decisive place. After a pause, his good-looking phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and there was a kind of cool color in his eyes. It's so dark, but on the surface, it's just an ordinary place, but it's more iron ore than other places. Unexpectedly, he was staring at him and plotting with the local sheriff to rob the iron ore and many iron shops. This kind of behavior is intolerable. Secondly, if Yan Moli noticed any clues when he was really fighting for the design, he would follow suit and expose the secret guard camp. Then it would be even more serious. However, such an important thing, is not it extremely confidential? Yan Beiqing actually told her? Emo Shanghua was stunned and looked at Yan Beiqing, who was in front of him. He couldn't believe it. Wait, this matter is so important. How can you talk to me so easily? You're not a good person. You're not afraid that I'll calculate you when I know it. In the past, I would have thought about that. Yan Beiqing looked at the eyes of Emo Shanghua, which were as clear as lacquer and ink. At the moment, Emo Shanghua seemed to be just a thin layer of performance. It was very easy to see the sincere inside through this performance. Now I know, it's what you know. You will never do that. All of a sudden, the flower eyes on the street seemed to explode a faint light, and the heart also followed the inexplicable light tremor, which was really shocked by his words. Then why do you believe me so much? Speaking, her eyes involuntarily fell on Yanbei City. Her palm slightly tightened, but she didn't realize it. She was full of answers from Yanbei City. Yan Beiqing also looked at her, serious, eyes faintly congealed some lingering feelings. With you as my wife, I am your husband in this world. There should be no one more intimate than you and me. Therefore, I will naturally believe in you, love you, and protect you all my life. At this moment, Mo Shanghua only felt that her heart, which had been pressed down by the boulder these days, suddenly relaxed. The boulder broke, and her heart rose to the sky with great joy. The whole body was clear and relaxed. As for those beside the ruddy lips of the flowers on the street pressed down the feeling of being ready to move in my heart. In the end, I didn't ask about Nanha, but said, may my heart be like yours. She only thought that if Yan Beiqing thought about the matter of Nanha, he would take the initiative to say it. Now if he doesn't say it, she won't ask. As long as he has the heart, he will tell her all about it in the future. However, she forgot that if this matter had been so pressed in her heart for a long time, this pimple would not be eliminated. Instead, it would take root and sprout until it grew sharp branches, which would make her tired both physically and mentally. Yen North City Heart is also the same flowers in full bloom, love to the depths. The hands of uncontrollable want to raise their hands to embrace the flowers into the bosom. Mo Shanghua is still a little uncomfortable, subconsciously back 2 steps, to avoid his contact. Yen North City Sword eyebrow tiny ring. Again is unclear so. Again is embarrassed of hope to her. Mo Shanghua was not comfortable with Yan Beiqing's eyes. He habitually turned his head to avoid his eyes and said, "The emperors will must have something to do with Yan Moli. He ordered you to be the deputy commander to mobilize Yuzhou's troops. What did he want to do?" Yan Beiqing glanced at the bottom of his eyes with a smile, but when he saw that Mo Shanghua was so serious, he corrected his face and analyzed it carefully. Yuzhou scattered 30,000 soldiers, guarding the border of the moon and the country, Yangguan 10,000, and Huijun 5,000 behind Yangguan. These 2 places are very important and far apart. The remaining 15,000 are scattered in Yuzhou, and there are more than 10 counties and states it's only 15,000. He will have 8,000 elite troops tomorrow. He can only transfer them recently. In this way, Yuzhou City and its surrounding areas will be empty, but the border will not be affected. As he spoke, the color of thinking in his eyes became more and more intense. Big brother died early. Now he is the eldest son, a few years older than me, but he has not been granted the title of king. If he can successfully pacify the rebellion in Anzhou. After Yan Beiqing's advice, the disordered thoughts of Huanao in the street, like a tangled thread, suddenly straightened out and successfully pierced on their respective needles. The previous defeat should be intentional, just to show the ferocity of the mob. In this way, he cannot win the respect of the prince after the defeat. As for robbing your mining weapons, I'm afraid it's also to prepare for everything after going to the fiefdom. It's more obvious that he doesn't want to be a favored prince in Beijing. Yan Moli is introverted and steady on the surface, but he has such great ambition inside Yanbei City good-looking phoenix eyes, such as suddenly falling ice in general, the temperature suddenly decreased, then he must really have such strength. Since ancient times, there has always been no real flesh and blood in the struggle for the throne. Since Yan Moli dares to fight for it, he must be ready to defeat the enemy. Mo Shanghua originally thought that Yan Beiqing's ambition should not be hidden at this time, but she never thought that now facing a person who had such a big threat to him, there was only endless cold in his eyes, and no sign of half ambition could be found. Yan Beiqing wants the throne. She can see it. However, it is impossible for a normal person to hide himself at such a time. How could he lose half of his ambition? Mo Shanghua suddenly felt strange, but seeing him look like this, he still held back his curiosity and didn't ask. He said, "He has thrown an olive branch to me 3 times and 4 times, and I have falsely promised. I think this will be his most unsuccessful move." The 4 eyes are opposite, and both of them are inside. At the moment, the color of the ink is deeper. It is clear that they have not said much, but they have already been tacit. Although Yan Beiqing has a reputation for waste firewood, Mo Zhang's ability to handle affairs is excellent. In less than a day, he has transferred out 8,000 elite troops, and the transfer is extremely reasonable, which does not make the troops everywhere uncoordinated. What's more, he was different from other villains. After he planned to mobilize the troops that day, he immediately came to Yan Beiqing to ask for instructions. If someone else, he would have asked for instructions from the so-called commander-in-chief. Yanbei City knew this person's carefulness, but it didn't matter. But the flower on the street couldn't help looking up. When he casually saw Mo Zhang's plan for dispatching troops, Yan Beiqing waved his hand directly. "I think it's very good. You can ask Brother Huang again." In this way, is not Yuzhou all exposed to others? Mo Jiang knew about Yanbei City's straw bag, but he never thought it was such a straw bag. He couldn't help saying, "Lord, this is not right." This matter has exposed the distribution of Yuzhou's troops and horses. This Brother Huang is not an outsider. Besides, he is the commander-in-chief. He will depend on Brother Huang in the future. Mo Jiang, a word is not finished. Mo Shanghua directly interrupted his words. A pair of random Langdang appearance. In this way, it is obvious to attach everything to Yan Moli. Can be such an important thing, on the side of the flowers, but also did not see the slightest intention to stop. Ma Jiang, helpless, had to bow his head. Yes, the end will obey. Wait a minute. Mo Shanghua, who had been silent all the time, suddenly raised her eyes and said, 8,000 elite soldiers have been transferred, which is not a small number. Please ask General Mo to go on and strengthen the patrol in order to prevent the invasion of the mob during this period. After a pause, she turned her eyes and looked at the boys around Yanbei City. Zhaoyin of each city also ordered them to go down and let them strengthen the patrol and martial law of each city and county to ensure the peace in the city. Mo Jiang and Xiaoxi did not answer immediately. They turned their eyes to Yan Beicheng. The words of the princess are equivalent to the words of the king. Yan Beicheng did not care about the general, particularly casual mouth. Language is difficult to cover the doting. Yes. After the boy answered, he went down in a hurry. Mo Jiang saw Mo Shanghua for the first time. Seeing her so clever again, he couldn't help looking at her more. His eyes were a bit thoughtful. Then he said yes and went on. The next morning, the flowers on the street were ready to go. Yan Beicheng and Yan Moli were already ready. They took a small group of people to the meeting place outside the city. As for Mo Jiang, after looking for Yan Moli yesterday, he mobilized troops all night and waited outside the city. After the meeting, they went on to make peace with the 5,000 soldiers in Yan Moli's mouth. In this way, more than 10,000 troops went to Anzhou. The distance between Anzhou and Yuzhou was not far. After 2 days of marching, the soldiers and horses arrived 30 miles near Anzhou and camped here. At that time, the night was deep. However, Yan Moli pulled Yan Beicheng away and discussed with him and many generals about the time of tomorrow's expedition. Mo Shanghua was not good at participating in it, so he sent Qin Lin out to inquire about the current situation of the rioters. After Qin Lin came back, the whole person seemed to be bad. His face was very dignified. He stuttered and said, "The king, the princess, the slave inquired, and now the situation seems very bad." Mo Shanghua eyebrow tip tiny pick, sat straight body, how? Qin Lin wiped the sweat on his forehead, and his face was not very good. According to the news from the spies in the camp, there were only a few hundred people in Un and Anzhou. Later, under their agitation, they gathered more than 4,000 people from nearby. Later, they heard that the imperial court sent people to suppress them. Unexpectedly, they directly captured the people and filled their army. Now there are more than 7,000 people scattered. More than 7,000 people. There are so many. The thin eyebrows of the flowers on the street suddenly tightened tightly into a ball, with a dignified complexion. When she first came to the world, she read a lot of historical books. According to the records in the books, since the founding of the People's Republic of China, the largest scale of people's riot was only more than 2,000 people, and it was caused by the remaining evils of the previous dynasty. Wujuan is just a small county. The disaster of food shortage is not so serious. It is far from the national drought decades ago. In those years, there were not so many mobs. Compared with this disaster, it is strange that such a large-scale rebellion was triggered by such a small disaster. But for a moment, she couldn't say what was wrong. Thinking about this, the flower on the street frowned more tightly, and there was a strong doubt in her eyes. Is there any other useful news? Qin Lin shook his head and looked ashamed. I'm stupid. At present, I can only inquire about these news. Well, I see. You go out. Now, however, I just arrived near Anzhou, and it's not Qin Lin's fault that I can't find out. Therefore, Mo Shanghua didn't investigate. I'm in a hurry. After 2 days you must be tired. Go to have a rest first. Yes. Qin Lin nodded and was about to go down, but the flower suddenly remembered something. He called him back again with strict eyes. By the way, this place is not like the mansion. If it's not for orders, you must not walk at will. If there is no special situation, you should always follow me in the daytime. Qin Lin even touched the back of his head and said with a smile, I know that the princess cares about me. I'm sure I will listen to you. You can rest assured. As soon as he resumed speaking, he said that he was always so stumbling, but his simple and honest face was as comfortable as ever. That's good. Emo Shanghua nodded her chin, then she turned and sat down. Seeing this, Qin Lin retreated quietly at the right time. The army is no better than the palace, which can provide a courtyard for Mo Shanghua and Yanbeiqing. Now the conditions in the army are limited, so they can only live in the same military tent. Now she knows too little about Anzhou, so it's impossible for her to sleep like this and just wait for Yanbeiqing to come back. When Yanbeiqing came back, it was already dark. Emo Shanghua was holding a book and reading it in front of the candlestick. He didn't come back until he came near. He looked up at him and said, You're back. Under the dim yellow and gentle light of the main lamp, the white cheeks of the flowers on the street are covered with a soft light, and the always cold cheeks add a sense of tenderness. The chill at the bottom of Yanbei City's eyes suddenly dissipated and turned into a pool of warm water, but in the mouth, it was the waste firewood in front of people. I don't want to either. His whole person directly collapsed on the side of the flower on the street, a tired state. After listening to so long, one did not understand. This king's butt is almost moldy, really tired. It's no better here than in the palace. Although there are so many ears and eyes, if you want to say something secret, you can still create such an opportunity. There are so many Yanmoli people in today's military camp. Naturally, you have to be careful everywhere, and never forget to be on guard. Emo Shanghua naturally knew this. Her eyes like a fan moved gently, and she said thoughtfully, I think Wang Yi must be hungry for his dinner today. It's clear that the king has not used up yet, so he was called away by the second brother. Mention this matter. Yanbeiqing immediately full of the color of resentment. Lord, calm down. Emo Shanghua closed the book and put it aside. She took the thick porcelain teapot, and poured a glass of water to Yanbeiqing. Yanbeiqing took the drink and touched his stomach. He could not help but wail and got up again from the mat as soon as the words fell. 2 soldiers outside the door came in and bowed their hands and clasped their fists. See you, Wang Yi. Yanbeiqing waved his hand casually and said, I haven't had much dinner. Please pass it on quickly and prepare some more for me. The 2 soldiers looked at each other for a while, and then one of them, looking rather embarrassed, said, Lord, now the kitchen is resting. If you cook now, I'm afraid there's so much nonsense. Yanbeiqing's white and clean cheek suddenly turned black, and his face showed displeasure. It's a great thing that I'm hungry. Don't you take me seriously and want to starve me to death. The end will not dare, the end will go now. The soldier immediately lowered his head, did not dare to say more, and went down bitterly. When they got out of the army tent, the man who had just talked with Yanbeiqing was gloomy and couldn't help spat on the ground. It's just a piece of waste wood. He yelled at us like this. Brother, don't you think he's a clear practitioner? Keep it down. The soldier next to him gave him a hand and said, Who doesn't know that this is a dandy's boy who doesn't know anything? He has a strong ability to act recklessly. If His Royal Highness is not here, it's all right. Now His Royal Highness is still here. Let's have a little trouble and serve him well. We can't hate him 1 or 2 at that time. The soldier sighed, his face full of grievances. He just put in a good fetus, and first endure him for a few days. As they said this, their pace gradually faded away. I don't know that both of them are practicing martial arts and internal power. Even if they are so far apart, their conversation is still in their ears. Emo Shanghua glanced at Yanbeiqing, frowning and frowning. You are so, although you have taken them away, your reputation is getting worse and worse. I have a reputation for being a waste firewood outside. It's no harm to be a little bit black. Yanbeiqing couldn't see the color of care. He was still sitting like he had just done. He turned his eyes and looked at the flowers on the street. You should know the situation of the mob now. I've asked Qin Lin to inquire about it. In my opinion, although there are a lot of rioters now, if we really look at it, it can't match our current number. After all, they are rioters. There must be some gap between them and the soldiers who have been training in the barracks all the year round. This battle should not be difficult. Yan Beiqing shook his head, and his eyes were full of secluded color. If it's so easy to win, then Yan Moli's defeat first. Doesn't it seem that he is too stupid? Mo Shanghua instantly understood his meaning. Eyebrows can't help gently stir up a few minutes. You mean he will be in this line of obstruction? Yanbei City didn't open his mouth, and the whole person restored the old appearance of the cloaked man, and took out a secret letter from his sleeve. Mo Shanghua took the secret letter, unfolded to look down, raised eyebrows suddenly a convergence, turned to light frown up. All the information in this secret letter is important information, but it's much more than what Qin Lin inquired about. According to the letter, these rioters got the news a day ago, and then they called back the scattered people who went out to burn, kill and plunder, and made full deployment. The battle was quite big. Yan Moli, who was stationed near here, was said to have suffered a heavy loss of 7,000 elite soldiers. As a compromise to the capital, he lost 2,000 people. In fact, he only lost 700. As for the rest, some of them appeared in the former Jiangjun County, while the remaining 1,000 people were missing. Mo Shanghua looked at the 3 words of 1,000 people on the secret letter, and her face was a little dignified. 1,000 people are missing. How can it be? Where did Yan Moli put these 1,000 people? What does he want to do? Yan North City is also complexion quite dignified, shook his head. My person temporarily didn't find out. Flower Thousand Willow there also sent spies to see again now. However, no matter where these 1,000 people go, it's not good for you and me. The flower in the street gazed and thought for a moment, then said, There is one thing I forgot to tell you. What's the matter? Her thin lips slightly pursed, delicate cheek calm as water. I have accepted Yan Moli's invitation. Since he has so many abnormalities, then I think he certainly has some big action. And these days will need to use my place, then, about can know what he wants to do. After a pause, she looked at Yan Beiqing, whose face was also calm and unchanging. Then she suddenly remembered something. I forgot that the whole palace was under your secret control. You should have known it already. Yan Beiqing silently forgot Mo Shanghua for a long time. When Mo Shanghua thought that she had said something wrong and made him unhappy, he saw his beautiful lips gently picked, with a smile, and his eyebrows and eyes softened. I knew that for a long time. It was always different from you. If you are joking, Mo Shanghua has seen Yan Beiqing smile for many times, but most of the smile is not from the heart. As today's sincere and soft smile, she is really the first time to see it, and the lip petal also involuntarily affects a few points. Yan Beiqing liked the way Mo Shanghua laughed. His lips were slightly hooked, and his eyebrows and eyes were slightly bent. In his eyes, she was 10 times more beautiful than her usual cold appearance. He couldn't help raising his hand and touching the corner of her lips. The situation is not clear now. Let's have a rest first and talk about tomorrow's affairs tomorrow. Without any response from Mo Shanghua, Yan Beiqing regained his formal appearance and regained his status as the useless firewood king, and his whole body was suddenly filled with dandy spirit. Mo Shanghua nodded and was about to speak when he heard the voice of 2 soldiers outside ring. Lord, the food is ready. Do you want to bring it in now? Mo Shanghua glanced at him, got up and walked to the bed in the tent of the army. You'd better have a good meal. I'll have a rest first. Between the words, with a bit if there is no smile. Yan Beiqing's eyebrows and eyes were suddenly dyed with a smile, but when he turned to the soldiers outside the door, he became very impatient again. I'll reward you. It's late at night. You all go away. Don't disturb the rest of the king and the princess. The 2 people outside the door looked at each other, and saw the ambiguous color in each other's eyes. They said yes busily and went far away with the meal just prepared by the kitchen. Just entered the account in the Mo Shanghua, a pretty face suddenly black as the bottom of the pot. Yan Beiqing got up and came in with an excellent face. He walked around the flower standing beside the bed. He took off his shoes and socks and lay down on the bed. He said with a smile, There is only one bed in the army. I think the princess should not give up to see that the king has nowhere to sleep, so I can only grievance you and me to sleep together. Looking at Yan Beiqing with ruffian smile on the bed, I felt a bit gnashing my teeth in my heart. But on second thought, they did not sleep without the same bed, so they took off their shoes and lay down in the bed with their clothes. Their bodies were very close to the edge of the bed, and almost half of them were exposed outside the quilt. Seemingly open-minded, in fact, it is not a little daughter's home mind. Yan Beiqing's smile deepened, and he pulled his quilt towards the flower on the street, but he didn't move towards her. He ignored his naked body, and then closed his eyes and had a rest. Mo Shanghua quietly turned back to see Yan Beiqing's present appearance. Her heart softened, and she moved towards him, covering Yan Beiqing's quilt tightly. Then she closed her eyes. At that time, Yan Beiqing, who had closed his eyes for a long time, could not help but pick up the corners of his lips, with a real smile. As the night deepened, most of the soldiers in the huge military tent fell asleep except the soldiers on guard. However, the original sleep of the same secure Mo Shanghua, closed eyes but shoe opened, has always been quiet eyes surging up a bit of killing. She almost instantly lifted the quilt and sat up from the bed. At the same time, she quickly drew a dagger from the pillow with her right hand. The whole person entered a highly alert state of preparation. However, the masked man in black, who was only 1 meter away from the bed, flashed a bit of surprise in his eyes. He soon lowered his head and said, "Your Highness, please." This voice, Mo Shanghua remembers, seems to be the bodyguard beside Yan Moli. Seeing that this person's whole body is really not half angry, her killing intention in her eyes gradually slowed down, and her delicate jaw gently nodded. The man in black, the bodyguard of Yan Moli, nodded slightly and walked out. Mo Shanghua turns his head and looks at Yan Beiqing, who is still on the bed. His breath is long. He is about to turn around to keep up with the bodyguard, but he suddenly opens his eyes, blinks at her, and then closes it again, as if he never wakes up. It turns out that he woke up a long time ago. Mo Shanghua couldn't help laughing, but thinking of the bodyguard waiting outside, she found her shoes and went out with her. The bodyguard was very clear about the distribution of the night patrol soldiers in the barracks, so he left the barracks with Mo Shanghua to avoid the night patrol soldiers, and finally stopped in a very lush dark forest. At this moment, Yan Beiqing, who had been pretending to be sleeping, sat up and covered a deep color with a pair of Dandy's clear eyes. "Lord, the princess has been taken to the dense forest for half a kilometer. Do you want someone to keep an eye on her?" Mo Ling didn't know when he appeared in front of the bed and bowed his head and eyes. The dark color of Yan Beiqing's deep eyes surged slightly, and there was no expression on his face, which meant that he was not angry. The natural cold air of his whole body also made people feel a little afraid. After a long time, I saw that his water chestnut jaw shook slightly, and his voice was low. "Yan Moli is too sharp. It's easy to find that you only sent people to stare out of the dense forest. That is, if the princess didn't come back before dawn, he would come back quickly to report." "Yes." Mo Ling simply should voice no half of the state of accident. At this juncture, Yan Beiqing risked being watched by Yan Moli when he found out his forces. Mo Ling was not surprised for a long time. After all, the whole Dark Guard camp knew how much their master cared about Mo Shanghua, so he was not surprised. The whereabouts of more than 1,000 people should be explored as soon as possible. Yan North City Light, while A ordered A then lay back. "Nothing can't appear at will go." Mo Ling gave a salute, then bent down and sat down. There was no light in the deep forest, and Yan Moli didn't even have a lantern. Only the moonlight reflected his figure. "Here you are, Your Highness." Yan Moli turned his back to the bodyguard, who came behind him and drooped his head. Yan Moli didn't open his mouth. He just turned around and glanced at the guard. The guard suddenly understood and quickly left. In the big forest there were only 2 people, Mo Shanghua and Yan Moli. Waiting for the bodyguard to go away, Yan Moli turned his body completely and put his hands behind him. The note sent by the princess that day is really true. Mo Shanghua's always cold cheek was covered with a smile, but it didn't reach the bottom of his eyes. "Your Highness is joking. Although I'm a woman, I'm also the truth of a gentleman's words. It's impossible to deceive your highness. The palace is really right. The spirit of the princess is really different from that of the past. Yan Emoli looks up and down at Emo Shanghua and slowly opens his mouth. Referring to the past, his smile remained unchanged, saying, Your Highness called me here late at night to talk about the past? Or do you just want to find a way to relieve the boredom in the long night? Yan Emoli lips cape this just raised a few minutes. Shape of peach blossom eyes slightly pick up. Voice is particularly magnetic pleasant to hear. Since the princess doesn't want to chat, this temple venue, say some other. This pair of good skin appearance, plus this seemingly excellent temperament. If you change to be an ordinary woman, you must have lost your heart. But in Emo Shanghua's eyes, what's tender and affectionate in his good-looking eyes? There are just countless calculations and invisible swords and halberds, dangerous and tight. Her lips smile a little. Tone also returned to the usual indifference and estrangement of the state. I probably also know what your highness wants to say. And doubt what? I can tell you now, I married Yan Beiqing is forced. I have no emotion for him. Don't you think that if he is good to me, I will be soft-hearted? I know best in my heart that although he is good to me, he may not be bad to other women. As she spoke, the temperature between her eyebrows and eyes dropped a little. The most unbelievable thing in the world is a man. I'm afraid of Lu Xiang and him. Yan Moli quietly looked at the look of the flowers in the street. Seeing that her eyes were absolutely cold, he knew that what he said was true. He believed it 7 or 8 points and said, Not only men, but all things in the world are untrustworthy. Only interests are the most trustworthy. With that, I took a meaningful look at the flowers on the street. I saw that there was no color of opposition on her face. Instead, she seemed to agree with her and kept silent. Then I continued. I don't need to say much nonsense. Now I want to tell you that you just need to recruit. Tomorrow I will take people to attack Anzhou City. If you are defeated, you just need to give more guidance and let Yanbei City escape in the direction of Yuzhou East. The slender willow eyebrows on the street were slightly picked up, and the corners of the lips were slightly mocked. Your Highness, don't you forget that I was brought along by the king this time? I'm afraid I'm following tomorrow's march, and the soldiers will be dissatisfied. What she said is also true. It's true in the barracks since ancient times. Before leaving, when she appeared beside Yan Beiqing, many soldiers were dissatisfied with her. If Yan Beiqing didn't show his usual indulgence, he would be forced to come. It's not that she doesn't want to dress up as a man, but if that happens, if Yan Beiqing is plotted, she won't show up. Yan Emoli lips cape lightly evokes. The Mao color is more and more meaningful. If you don't have this ability, you don't dare to follow. Emo Shanghua non-committal. I slightly lift, so my benefits. It still depends on your choice. Under the advantage of height, Yan Emo stood in front of Emo Shanghua. Half of his cheek was in the dark, and the other cheek was blurred. But his eyes were very deep, like 2 deep whirlpools in the dark, which could not be seen or touched. If there is a hook on his lips, he vowed. To live alone in Yuzhou, it's your choice whether you are not oppressed by others, or whether you want to marry someone else. Mentioning this, he suddenly moves in the heart. The Mao color is deep several su. Today's Emo Shanghua is not what it used to be. If she was accepted as a concubine and tied their honor and disgrace together, she would have to work for herself wholeheartedly, which should be good. Emo Shanghua naturally didn't know what he thought in his heart. After listening to him, he nodded his chin and looked satisfied. Well, that's it. After it's done, I'll entrust my highness to take care of it. High fives. Yan Moli stretched out a hand and spoke sternly. Emo Shanghua hates to touch him from the bottom of her heart, but the current situation really can't allow her to fool around. Pressure to the color of disgust in the eyes, she raised her hand expressionless, and Yan Emoli's hand gently hit, and then recovered his hand unharmed, then said, The night is deep, I can't stay too long, leave. Finish saying, don't wait for Yan Emoli to open a mouth. She then turns round to leave directly. Until Yan Moli's figure disappeared behind her, she couldn't hide her disgust. She took out her handkerchief and wiped her hands carefully until every finger was not let go. As for the handkerchief, she didn't even keep it. She just threw it away. At that time, far away in the imperial city, the emperor sat on the seat of the red gold dragon. He looked at the memorial in his hand quietly. It was like this. He was born with the spirit of the king. He didn't dare to look up. Lu Xiang, dressed in a formal official uniform, is clearly the prime minister, one person below 10,000 people above, but now in front of the emperor, he also takes away his usual arrogance, slightly conceals his eyes, looks solemn and humble, and stands at the next head, waiting for the emperor to finish reading the memorial. After a while, the emperor raised his head and put the memorial aside. Because of the rebellion in Anzhou, it seems that some evils of the former dynasty began to be active among the people again. Before the rebellion in Anzhou is settled, there will be other troubles. I really have a headache. When Lu Xiang heard the speech, he suddenly understood it in his heart and said, "The remaining evils of the former dynasty are not to be let go. In my opinion, we must send someone to go as soon as possible to wipe out the remaining evils of the former dynasty." What the prime minister said is true. The emperor nodded thoughtfully and said, "According to the prime minister, who should be sent?" Lu Xiang dropped his eyes and thought about it seriously. After a while he said again, "This year's imperial examination has just ended. There are many new talents among Yichen. Yichen thinks that it's better to take this opportunity to choose some good talents to work for our court in the future." The emperor nodded, his face was gentle, and he looked like a good speaker. Since the prime minister has a heavy opinion on this matter, it's better to recommend a few people, so that I can refer to them. Then, without waiting for Lu Xiang to speak, he turned his eyes to his personal eunuch Lu Weng. Lu Weng had been with the emperor for many years. He knew what the emperor meant. He nodded his head slightly to answer the orders and turned to the little eunuch. After a while, the little eunuch moved the table and chairs. The table was full of ink, paper and inkstones. When Lu Xiang saw this, he couldn't say anything. He had to sit down at the table and think about it for a moment before he began to write. "Your Majesty." Lu Xiangli straightened his sleeves and presented the letter to the emperor. The emperor took it, but did not open it immediately. Instead, he put it aside. Instead, he picked up a red ink brush and read it on the memorial he had just read. Without raising his head, he said, "Prime Minister, go back first. I'll see it later and make a decision." "Yes, I will leave." Lu Xiang bowed his head and bowed his eyes for a salute. Then he retreated. From the beginning to the end, he strictly observed the etiquette and was prudent. When Lu Xiang withdrew from the imperial study, the emperor, who had just returned to be gentle, turned to be sharp, as if he had changed a person. Lu Weng had been with the emperor for many years. Seeing this, he quickly stepped forward and dismissed all the maids and eunuchs in the outer room. Then he brought a cup of tea that the emperor drank every day and gently placed it on the table. The emperor put down his writing brush and opened Lu Xiang's book. After a while he whispered, "Lu Fong Chen Qin." After pondering for a long time, he raised his head and looked at Lu Weng. "Do you remember these two people?" Lu Weng frowned and thought for a long time before he said, "If you go back to the emperor, I really don't remember every year. Those who are elected in the imperial examination will have more or less contact with officials and princes. Naturally, the emperor should pay attention every year. What Lu Weng means is that they are clean." The emperor nodded slightly, and there was no joy or anger in his eagle eyes. "These two people have nothing to do with the prime minister, Mo Li." Now it seems that the prime minister is really devoted to the country and loyal. Although the words say so, can Mao inside but clear of delimit a few fun light to mock of color. In terms of tact, who in the court doesn't know that the prime minister is the first? No matter when he is a loyal person who only knows how to serve the country wholeheartedly. He never asks the court to fight with him. Therefore the official voice is excellent both in officialdom and among the people. But in the eyes of the emperor, the more so, the more he could not rest assured. However, the prime minister is really doing a good job now. Just a few days ago, because of Yen Moli's affair, his doubts about them have disappeared. "I think these two people are good, so I tunneled the prime minister. This is the intention." They will be appointed to Zhuoqianhu and Yuqianhu. In a few days, they will lead their troops to wipe out the remaining evils of the previous dynasty. By this time, the sharp color on the emperor's face had been completely removed, and he had regained his warm and talkative manner. The prime minister has always been brilliant. It must be right to recommend them. Lu Wing took the bright yellow brocade silk cloth used in the imperial edict and put it in front of the emperor's table. He opened his mouth with a smile. The emperor did not answer, but he lowered his eyes to write. After a while he finished the writing. After giving the imperial edict to Lu Wang, he quickly got up and walked around the desk to the half-open window. These days, the weather is always particularly gloomy. It's clear that it's day, but it's as dark as evening. It's really annoying. The emperor looked at the sky outside, his thick eyebrows locked tightly, and his eyes crossed a deep dark color. Lu Wang, have you heard from the national master in the Moon Kingdom? I always feel that there is something abnormal in the sky. If the national teacher is here, we can observe it. Except for the news that the national master was staying at the royal family of Yuegwa more than 10 days ago, no news has been heard recently. Lu Wing shook his head with a worried look on his face and said with relief, Your Majesty, please take it easy. The state of the moon is thousands of miles away from Yao and Yao. It's a long way to go. There's also news that is not in time. In other words, you should take good care of the dragon's body when the national master's tour was not like this. How can I not worry? The emperor frowned half a minute and said, Send another letter. In addition, the news from Anzhou can't be relaxed day by day. It can be sent back at any time. Yes, I do. Yesterday, Yanbei City was pulled to follow the long-time deployment. Early this morning, Yan Moli directly ordered to go down and kill Anzhou City. When Mo Shanghua wanted to go with Yan Beicheng, she was naturally opposed by countless voices. Naturally, Yan Moli didn't mean to help, but her eyes showed a sense of watching a good play. In the face of such a situation, Mo Shanghua took a dagger and threw it on a pillar beside the speaker. The blade fell into the wood and immediately shocked a group of people. Naturally, no one dared to say more. In this way, Mo Shanghua also reluctantly went out with Mo Shanghua in the name of extraordinary martial arts. If you want to reach Anzhou, you have to go through the main entrance outside of Anzhou. Yan Mo Li Ben sent forward to explore the way, and the rest of the army was waiting 5 miles away. I thought I would have to wait for 3 hours anyway. I never thought that in less than 2 hours, the forward would come back with his men, and the soldiers would not be damaged. Mo Shanghua and others all have doubts in their eyes. When the forward sees this, he has no time to wipe the sweat on his forehead. He kneels down directly on one knee and says, I'll tell you, Your Highness. The last general has explored carefully. There is no one at all the gates in front of him. What? How is that possible? Yes, they should have known for a long time that the army was coming down. How could it be empty? Well, in my opinion, they know they are invincible, and they have been defeated. When the generals heard the speech, they suddenly looked different, and began to discuss it one after another. Only a few people did not speak, including Mo Jiang. Yen North City slants ahead to look at Mo Shang flower. The Mao inside but have no half-cent because of this matter should rise of emotion, obviously walked God. Since he came with the army, his mind has fallen here. People are used to the appearance of Yanbei City. After a glance, they turn their eyes and look at Yan Moli unhappily. Your Highness, what do you think? The flowers in the street smell the words, and the light of the eyes also falls on Yan Moli, but the eyes are not as surprised or conceited as others, only pure and bright. Her idea is very simple. Now is not the time for her to speak. She will not be unhappy. At that time, Yan Moli's eyes were also clear and quiet. When he heard people asking him, he just said, they should not be so timid. According to our temple, they should know that they are invincible. They simply gathered up their forces and deployed their defense in Anzhou. Mo Jiang nodded after hearing the speech and said, the Yen general also thinks that at this time, Anzhou should be like an iron bucket, and it's hard to break in, Your Highness. If not, let's have a rest here and go to the spy to find out the current situation of Anzhou. Another general, however, shook his head and retorted in a strong voice. It's just a woman's opinion. You know, if the people in Anzhou are not eliminated every day, the people around them will suffer one more day. Your Highness, according to the opinion of the last general, we must not give them a chance to breathe at this juncture. If we have such soldiers, we can encircle Anzhou and even trap them death. General Wang is really brave, but if you do as you say, have you ever thought about how much money you need to spend on food, grass and military, which will lead to the emptiness of the national treasury at that time? If taxes are increased, it is not the common people who suffer. In the face of General Wang's words, Mo Jiang did not give in for half a minute and argued. It's better to take a rest for a night and attack at one stroke when the situation is clear. General Wang was flattered. Naturally, he was not happy. As soon as he saw that the two sides were going to fight, Yan Moli, who had been listening for a long time, said, "What the two generals said is reasonable." On his handsome face he was still at ease, and his words were all round. Since both of them are reasonable, it's better to agree with the opinions of the two generals. In this way, the strategy discussed yesterday should be adjusted to recall all the soldiers who had been sent to attack Zhengzuangwan, and integrate them together. Then, according to yesterday's opinion, the soldiers should be divided into 4 routes to attack the 4 gates of Anzhou, east, west, north and south, and strive to wipe out the disaster of Anzhou at one stroke. Say Yan Emoli turns Mao to see to one side is Yan North City. Emperor younger brother feels how. However, Yan Beiqing had no reaction, and obviously he had not recovered. After all, he was the general of Yuzhou. Mo Jiang immediately covered his lips and coughed heavily. They were not far apart, and they were so loud that Yan Beiqing's mind came back together and looked at Yan Emoli blankly. "What's the matter?" When the generals heard the words, they all looked angry and speechless. It can be seen that they have been dissatisfied with Yanbei City for a long time. But Mo Jiang, with no anger on his face, said, "My lord, your highness, please ask me how to march." Without waiting for Ma Jiang to explain, Yan Beiqing suddenly nodded and said, "All according to the emperor brother, I have no opinion." The rest of the generals were flushed with anger, and looked at Yan Moli one after another. However, he saw that the upper half of Yan Mo's face was not angry, and his face was calm and gentle. In that case, all the officers and men listened to the order. "The end will be here." As soon as the words came out, the generals, who were still angry and did not dare to speak, quickly dismounted one after another, kneeling on one knee, drooping their heads and eyes, waiting for orders. Speaking of important things, Yan Mo's gentle face suddenly converged, and his eyes were solemn. Everyone can start to march into Anzhou and stop 8 miles outside the city. According to yesterday's discussion, the directions are in the east, west, north and south directions of Anzhou city. Remember, no one is allowed to attack without the command of the temple. Those who violate the order will be dealt with by military law. After a pause, he frowned and looked at Yan Beiqing. There was a sense of helplessness in his words. Brother Huang is not good at marching. I think General Mo is loyal, resourceful and brave. He's also your old part. I'd better follow you, lest you're not used to other people. At the end of the day, I will always protect the safety of the Lord. Your Highness can rest assured. Without waiting for Yan Beiqing to speak, Mo Jiang simply responded with a strong voice. Yan Beiqing looked at Mo Jiang with great satisfaction and said, "Brother Huang is always thinking about our king. With Brother Huang's protection and General Mo, our king is at ease." Yan Emoli just a faint smile, not too much emotion. One side of Mo Jiang is also the same unswerving smile. "Let's go." In Yan Emoli's light tone, the army of more than 10,000 people formally marched out to the outside of Anzhou. It's summer, just afternoon, and the weather is still as hot and dry as noon. Yan Beiqing was waiting in the direction of the north gate of Anzhou city, with 4,000 soldiers. At this time his face was covered with sweat. "We've been waiting for half an hour. The heat is going to die. Why can't the emperor give orders? Can't we wait like this all the time?" Yan Beiqing raised his hand discontentedly and wiped the sweat on his face. But deep in his eyes, which seemed discontented and resentful, It was a quiet color with no emotion. It was very different from the expression on his face and what he said, as if there was another person living inside. The soldiers on one side are also sweating profusely. After listening to his words, they not only scold Yan Beiqing for being a dandy, but also feel dissatisfied with Yan Mo. At present, only Mo Jiang and a speechless forward are the generals following Yan Beiqing. There are no more people who denounce Mo Shanghua seriously. Therefore, Mo Shanghua just said, "Lord, it's already past noon now. It will be much cooler soon. Don't be so upset." Then he handed his handkerchief to Yan Beiqing to wipe his sweat. Then he turned his head and looked at Mo Jiang. "Please bear with me." Mo Jiang's jaw was slightly lower, and his face was not half full of contempt and dissatisfaction with the woman. The princess is serious, and the general and all the officers and men understand and have no complaints. Yan Beiqing wiped the sweat on his cheek with the handkerchief of flowers on the street. His resentment was a little less. He was about to tell the soldiers to sit down and have a good rest. Then he saw two men coming from the west, one after the other, to see the armor on his body. They were in the same army. Mo Jiang narrowed his eyes and looked at it carefully. He said, "Wang Yi, it seems that His Highness sent those two strikers to inquire about the news." Yan Beiqing nodded impatiently and said to the general behind, "Let them come here." Yes. As soon as they got near, they knelt down in front of Yan Beiqing, and the first man said, "See, Deputy Commander, tell the commander to ask Mo Jiang to come to deliver a message. The other three gates are already under attack, and most of the troops are at the south gate where the commander goes. Now the defense of the other three gates is lax. Please give the deputy commander an order immediately, and attack the north gate with all his strength. It must be a quick decision." "I know. Go back and tell my brother that I will try my best to live up to what he asked." Yan Beiqing didn't feel excited at all. He just responded listlessly. Obviously, he had no confidence in the war. Yan Beiqing had already said so, but the two did not move. He said frankly, "Deputy Commander Hui, the commander has ordered that the general should help His Highness here. There is no need to go back and report to him." Yan Beiqing's eyes were slightly dark, and he was about to put on an impatient gesture to drive people away, so he said, "Lord, your Highness must also be for your safety, so he specially asked the two strikers to help, so don't refuse, let them follow." Many officers and soldiers pay attention to every move here. They don't think that Yan Beiqing will listen to her words when they listen to Mo Shanghua's words. After all, he has just said to let them go back to report back, but these two people are so shameful. If they are changed, they will be unhappy, not to mention Yan Beiqing, who is willful. But I never thought that although Yan Beiqing was still frowning and dissatisfied, he finally nodded. "Just follow me. Remember, I'll listen to you later. I will obey you." Two people should be the same, and then consciously remounted, driving the horse to stand around a few generals. However, the eyes are from time to time to sweep the flowers on the street. Some of the generals who didn't think so could not help looking at Mo Shang for a few more times. For 2 times in a row, Yan Beiqing listened to Mo Shang's words. It seems that the old rumor that the king was afraid of his inner world is true. Mo Shanghua was even more unexpected. In the future, everyone in the city knew that Yan Beiqing was extremely afraid. The princess said that Yan Beiqing, who was the king, did not dare to have a retort. Attack the city. Yan Beiqing didn't pay more attention to others. He just waited for the two men to take the seat and gave the order. As soon as his voice fell, he saw Mo Jiang's face turn. His face was covered with a layer of killing color, and his eyes were full of calm and resolute. Then he heard Missouri Jiang drive his horse forward and face all the soldiers in a loud and solemn voice. "Deputy General Wang ordered you to lead 1,000 people to attack from the right wing with the ladder. You must be careful of the enemy's ambush." Yes, the occasional comments in the army were completely eliminated, and more than 1,000 people immediately responded to them, which was quite impressive. These people are all soldiers brought out by Mo Jiang. Yanbei City usually doesn't ask questions, so it's not too weak. "Han Xianxiu, you are going to attack the city gate with 800 generals, siege vehicles and stones. Remember to be careful not to hurt the people over there. Mo Jiang continued to command calmly. The rest of the people, follow the Deputy General Zhao, followed closely. I will obey you. I will obey you. Yes, as soon as Ma Jiang's voice fell, the voice of the generals echoed one after another. Then, after nodding in Yanbei City, the generals poured out like a tide. It was really spectacular. As for the two men who came to deliver the letter first, they were added temporarily. Mo Jiang would not change his marching plan because of them. He just said, "The two vanguards will follow our general and protect the prince and princess here." The two men were not very dissatisfied, and they were very happy to answer. With the advance of the army, the sound of war drums is also rhythmic and slowly sounded. The drums are dull and resounding, such as thunder bursts, and the heavy rain comes. The sound seems to beat on people's heartstrings, which makes people's hearts particularly excited. Yan Beicheng, who had been distracted frequently, was also shocked by the sound of the drum. He focused on the situation not far ahead. At this time, on the wall of the north gate, suddenly so many troops poured in. Many soldiers, who were dressed in common people's coarse clothes, but tied with khaki rags between their heads and arms, were frightened. They all turned around and looked at each other. They were a little timid. Seeing the soldiers look like this, a deputy general couldn't help but say angrily, "Keep your mouth shut for me." If there are any people who waver in the morale of the army, they immediately drag them out and cut off a group of worthless things. The soldiers are so scared. All the soldiers heard the words and quickly closed their mouths. No one dared to say more, but the panic and fear could not be covered up. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.